A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Suspense. Outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
It is a cliche of murder that the killer always returns to the scene of his crime. But we know of no recorded instance in which the victim has returned to the scene of his demise. However, we come as close as we can in the upcoming story. We have contrived to produce a reasonable facsimile of the corpse with some startlingly unpredictable results. Listen then as Miss Vanessa Brown stars in Vamp Till Dead, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
And now, Vamp Till Dead, starring Miss Vanessa Brown. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Your first name, what did you say it was?
Amy, Mr. Gentry. Amy Watkins.
Amy. Yes. And are you a good secretary, Amy?
You have all of my recommendations, Mr. Gentry. I mailed them to you a week ago.
Oh, yes, to be sure. I must have looked at them or I wouldn't have hired you and had you come all the way from New York, now would I? Do you think you'll like it here in this big house working for me?
I hope so, sir.
Tell me, what do you think of me?
I beg your pardon?
Me, how do I strike you? What am I? A gentle person? A wit? A profound talent? A buffoon? Tell me, Amy, I'd be interested in your opinion.
I've only known you a half hour, Mr. Gentry.
Well, then I'll tell you. I'm a writer, Amy. Do you know what it means to have a million words inside of you and not to be able to let them out?
No, sir.
It's an utter horror. And that's the way it's been with me for more than a year. But now I'm ready to go back to work again and release those million words. And it'll be your job to take them down.
I'll do my best.
Not going to be easy. Very demanding, Amy.
I understand, Mr. Gentry.
The cook's name is Jenny. She'll help you find your way around the house. And for heaven's sake, call me Paul, not Mr. Gentry.
Yes, Paul.
That's better. Amy, I feel it helps if people adjust to new situations as quickly as possible. Have you heard about my wife?
No, sir, I haven't.
Well, you will. So I'll tell you. People around here say that I killed Mrs. Gentry. Good night, Amy.
I ran upstairs to my room. I could still hear him laughing even after I closed the door. And then finally he stopped. And I was lying across my bed when I was aware that someone was standing beside me.
He's like that child. You mustn't mind him.
Who are you?
I'm Jenny, the cook.
Oh, yes. But somehow you don't look like a cook.
My dear, I find more inspiration in cooking meals for a great writer like Paul Gentry than I ever found in the 23 years I taught high school English.
Oh, I see.
Now, don't let him upset you. He really doesn't mean it. He can be as gentle as he is harsh. No one really understands him.
Did Mrs. Gentry understand him?
No, she didn't. She never made an attempt. There's a question in your eyes, Amy.
Yes? Was she murdered?
Yes. In that little guest cottage down by the brook. You can see it from this window.
How did it happen?
It was almost a year ago. They argued over something trivial at dinner. The flowers on the table. Mrs. Gentry ran out of the house. A few minutes later, I could hear her playing the piano in the cottage. Some little tune that always infuriated him. The next morning, her body was found slumped over the piano. Her neck was broken.
And people think
there was no evidence against Mr. Gentry, no proof. Only hearsay and talk.
I see. Now there's a question in your eyes.
Yes, Amy. This information doesn't seem to disturb you. And that puzzles me. Because along with that, there's something about you.
What?
It's about your appearance, my dear. Really, it's quite remarkable how much you resemble Isabel Gentry.
For the next 3 weeks, I took dictation from morning until night. There was quantity, certainly, but the quality was poor. The book was going badly. And then, one afternoon, when I walked into his study, there was another man standing there beside Paul.
Amy, this is Al Pender. Al's a reporter on the local paper. He tried his best to have me indicted for murder.
Oh. How do you do, Mr. Pender?
I'm glad to meet you, Amy. I just dropped in to interview Mr. Gentry about his new book.
You see, Amy, I'm a celebrity. They interview me about my new book. Why don't you tell him all about it?
I wouldn't want the responsibility, Paul.
You can tell him how bad it is as well as I can.
Oh, no, Paul. I couldn't possibly say that about it.
What could you say about it? Anything worthwhile? No. The dropped eyes, the withdrawal. Isabel used to react the same way when I became angry with her.
Do I remind you of her?
Yes. Yes, you remind me of Isabel. Of all the things in her that stopped me from writing. How do you like that, Fender? There's a story for you to print.
You want me to print it, Gentry?
I'd kill you if you did.
I'm sorry if I remind you of Isabel, Paul.
Are you, Amy? Are you really? No, I don't think you are. I don't think you are at all.
Well, you been like this very long?
I'd rather not say, Mr. Pender.
Amy, did you know that no one in town would take this job?
Yes.
And still you came here?
Yes.
He killed his wife. Everyone knows it.
It was never proved.
No, because of a technicality. You know, he's right. You do look a great deal like Isabel. And that means you're in danger here. He's crazy. He might actually come to think of you as Isabel.
I want him to think of me as Isabel. In every way possible. Every day, every minute. There must be some way to prove he killed her.
Say, why are you so interested? Who are you, anyway?
I'm Isabel Gentry's sister.
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute. We continue with Act 2 of Vamp Till Dead, starring Miss Vanessa Brown. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Yes. I am the sister of the woman Paul Gentry was accused of murdering. I was abroad during their courtship and marriage. We had never met. So it was simple for me to begin my campaign. I began to do everything the way I had remembered Isabel. I wore her favorite perfume. I held my head to one side and smiled the way she used to. I started using her expressions in my speech. I wasn't sure whether I was torturing him or he was torturing himself. But I was certain he began to think of me as Isabel. And then I began visiting the guest cottage where she was murdered. And playing the piano at which she died. I didn't notice you come in, Jenny.
What are you doing here in this cottage?
Practicing.
Must you practice that?
What do you mean?
That's the tune she used to play. I told you he hated it.
Oh, I forgot.
And your hair. You're wearing it the way she used to.
Am I?
Don't you see what you're doing to him?
What?
He hardly spends an hour a day writing now. It's just like it was when she was alive. There was something about her that killed his inspiration. Instead of creating, he only wanted to destroy. Now you're doing the same thing to him.
Me? But I only want to help him.
There's only one way you can do that.
How?
Leave.
But he needs me.
You're not helping. You're hindering, always reminding him of her.
Jenny, why do you stay?
Oh, I'm like his desk or the chair he sits on, just a piece of furniture doing a job. He doesn't think about me one way or the other. Oh, someday I'll see him get back to writing the way he used to.
You mean without her?
Yes.
Do you think he killed her, Jenny?
Oh, that's something I don't dare think about, Amy.
I thought about it. In the days that followed, Paul's work went from bad to worse, and so did his temper. He was unmanageable most of the time. He would slump in his chair, drinking and staring at me. Just staring. Staring. I knew he was almost ready to break the day he went into a rage and he started throwing things around his study. I left the house, walked down to the guest cottage, sat down at the piano and started to play. Was this it, I wondered? Would the trap be sprung now? I hadn't long to wait. Behind me, I heard the door slowly open, and I continued playing. First move would have to be his.
Hello, Amy.
Al?
Surprise you?
Yes.
I brought you something.
A gun? What for?
Well, if you won't be sensible and leave this place, then you need it for your own protection.
I can handle my situation without a gun.
Can you? That man is out of his mind. The first time he comes at you, let him have it. Everybody in this town knows about him. Look, no jury would ever convict you.
I came here to get proof that Paul Gentry killed my sister. I want him to pay for it legally. But it seems to me that you want me to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Oh, now listen,
Look,
Amy.
Al, I'm going to tell you something. Isabel used to write to me, and she was pretty frank. She told me about a newspaper man she was interested in. Could you be that man?
Yes.
Now, is it because you loved Isabel that you wanted to see her murderer caught? Or would you just like to sacrifice Paul Gentry because he was married to the woman that you wanted?
Pender, are you aware that this property belongs to me? What are you doing on it?
Talking to her. What does it look like?
Paul, please.
How many times do I have to tell you to leave my wife alone?
Your wife? Just a minute.
You
Gentry.
get off my property while you can still walk. And Isabel, you get back up to the house where you belong.
I ran back to the house up to my room. A moment later, I heard his heavy steps coming up the stairway. And before I could do anything, he was standing in my doorway.
Isabel, why did you make me do it?
Why did you do it, Paul?
I couldn't help myself with those men all the time, especially Pender. Amy, Isabel's dead. You're Amy. Why do you keep making me think that you're Isabel? Why?
You're imagining it, Paul.
Oh, Amy, why don't you leave here while it's safe?
I think it is safe, Paul.
You aren't afraid of me the way you were that first night? You aren't afraid of what I might do to you?
No, Paul, I'm not afraid. If you really want me to go, I will, but I'd rather stay. I want to be close to you. Closer to you than anybody in this world has ever been.
Oh, I don't want you to go, Amy. Ever. I love you.
I know.
I want you to marry me.
Of course. Of course, Paul. Ever since Isabel died, I've wanted to be your wife.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute. We continue with Act 3 of Vamp Till Dead, starring Miss Vanessa Brown. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Next day, we were married quietly by the justice of the peace. Surely this fate would spring the trap. Surely my sister's murderer would attempt to kill the woman who so closely resembled her and now replaced her. That night, I dressed for dinner in the perfect image of my sister. And Paul greeted me as I expected him to.
Isabel, you never looked more beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Your chair?
Thank you.
You may serve, Jenny.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Jenny, use the large soup bowls, please, for Isabel.
I understand, sir.
I know you prefer them, darling.
Yes.
Is something wrong, Isabel?
Paul, I just noticed. You have carnations on the table.
Why, yes.
You know I don't like carnations, Paul. I don't like them at all.
Isabel, they were all I could get. I'm afraid you'll have to like them.
Look, I don't have to like anything. Have Jenny take them off the table.
Now, see here.
You'll either get rid of them or I won't eat dinner with you. You hear me?
Then don't eat dinner with me, my dear. I'd like it better that way. Then I won't have to look at your bored, critical face all the time.
It was rude and cruel, but I had to know. I had to act the same way Isabel had acted, for it was just a year ago tonight that she had been murdered. And then I was in the cottage where it had happened, sitting at the piano, playing her tune. I sat there waiting. I knew I would hear steps first, and then a door. But I heard nothing. Nothing. And then at last, I heard the steps.
Amy, are you all right? Are you all right, Amy?
Yes, Sal. Yes.
Amber, stay where you are. I'll blow your head off. I always knew it was you who killed Isabel. Because you refused to run away with you.
You're wrong, Gentry. It wasn't me. Look.
Paul, darling, she was the one.
Jenny.
I had to knock her out. She tried to kill Amy the same way she killed Isabel. She was afraid Amy was going to take you away from her.
Oh, Amy, my darling.
Paul, do you know who I am? Who I really am?
Yes, I know you're not Isabel. I've known all along. I had to pretend because you pretended.
Forgive me. Please, forgive me.
It's all over, my darling. Ended.
Yes, Paul, it's over. Isabel is truly dead.
Suspense. In which Miss Vanessa Brown starred in Vamp Till Dead, written by E. Jack Newman and John Michael Hayes. Suspense is produced and directed by William N. Robeson. In a moment, the names of tonight's players were Jeanette Nolan, Ben Wright, and Norm Alden. Listen again next week when we bring you Jack Carson starring in Misfire. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suspense has been brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
Talent is an elusive and mystifying phenomenon, and one of the most curious things about it is that it manifests itself in the most unexpected places. One of the most talented sound men in radio broadcasting is Tom Hanley. We did not know until recently that he possesses another talent. He is an extraordinarily fine writer. It is his radio play you are about to hear, Tom Hanley's terrifying story, Misfire.
And now, Misfire, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Ground Zero, somewhere on the desert. We are inside the cab where the bomb, this one called Jackhammer, awaits the impulse from control point some 14 miles to the south. Electronic gossips hum and throb their chatter about the health of the patient, suspended 500 feet above the desert floor. But the unfeeling machines neglect to mention a human factor this morning. An imprint of carelessness. A small metal wrench jammed in the track of the electronically controlled door. A shift of sand occurs against one of the great steel legs gripping the desert, and a brown-backed desert tortoise trundles out for a look at his world. A world of sage and sand and space stretching endlessly off into the darkness. No man is in sight. That is good. There have been days of hiding from men, but now they've gone, and the tortoise tries his morning legs and plans his new day.
H-1. Place eye protectors in position and turn back to fireball. 55, 54, 53, 52, 51.
From 100 speakers 50, miles removed 49, from ground zero, the tape-recorded voice begins its
47,
countdown. No margin for error now, no 45, turning back. 44, Test shot Jackhammer is underway.
42, 41, 40, 39.
On News Knob, 14 miles away, a photographer from an eastern paper nervously adjusts his goggles and wonders, what would it be without them? 14 miles. Can it blind across 14 miles? A mile and a half from ground zero, a 22-year-old Marine corporal crouches in a trench on his knees, his head rammed into his arms, per instructions. He and 1,999 other Marines there to prove that man is not afraid. Not really. But what if something goes wrong?
33.
What if it's bigger than they think?
32. 31.
He hears the endless
30,
droning of the taped voice.
29. 28. 27. 26.
A little over a mile from Ground Zero, in a concrete bunker with its air conditioning secured, sits a 37-year-old Englishman, a civil defense man, remembering another time he huddled in a shelter. Only then he was a soldier in London, and the buzz bombs screamed overhead. His uniform, now top secret, designed for the future, and he sits on a padded floor with 12 other men. They want to know what chance their cities will have against the day that must never come.
18, 17, 16, 15.
At control point, men sit silently, watching instruments designed to tell them how efficiently jackhammer does its job.
9.
And the tortoise
7,
lumbers across his front
6,
yard
5,
in search of breakfast.
4, 3, 2, 1.
What happened, Doctor?
Misfire. It's a misfire.
Attention all personnel. Attention all personnel. This is Dr. Thurston. Test shot jackhammer is incomplete due to undetermined failure. Maintain positions till further notice. You are still on detonation alert.
Dr. Thurston?
What is it, Butler?
Everything was normal on my phase until H-49.
Grant, that would coincide with your variance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but Frank, you shouldn't have had any reading at all at that time.
On the sub-relay meter, I didn't. It showed normal, and then there was a complete negative to zero response.
Then there it is, Dr. Thurston. It's an on-site rejection of voltage.
Huh. In other words, the fault lies at Ground Zero.
According to these data, yeah.
Well, can correction be made from here? We can't have anybody going out there.
We'll know after we check the monitor list.
There's one consolation, Dr. Thurston.
What's that?
We put it together. We ought to be able to take it apart.
Yes. Yes, we ought to. But can we?
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute. And now, we continue with Act 2 of Misfire, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
There's no walking away from an atom bomb. No asking who left it there. So it becomes a story of people, the disarming. Lee Thurston, MIT graduate, 1932, old enough to have been appalled at the thought of an atom bomb. Scientific enough to accept it. Human enough to demand influence and its use. John Grant, 36, a red-headed giant who daily deals in miracles, believes in them, makes them work. Frank Butler, former child prodigy, grown bald at 28, bachelor, attendant now at the bigamous wedding of electronics, nuclear fission, and power politics.
An on-site test is the only way to check it out.
No, Butler, that would mean 2 men at Ground Zero.
But there's no explanation for what we're finding here.
He's right, Doctor. If we accept our data, we have a power failure originating at the cab itself.
With the risk of delayed detonation, Grant. You can't forget that.
I'm not. There are 2,000 Marines and 12 CD men out there. How long can they wait?
Dr. Thurston.
Yes, what is it?
General Matting on the phone, sir. Wants to know if he can evacuate yet.
No, not until we know more about the cause of the misfire. I'll let him know.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Winship.
Yes?
Tell the photo lab I can't wait any longer for those final pictures of the patch bay under the bomb.
I will, sir.
For now, we'll go over those monitor checklists again, gentlemen. We mustn't have any errors.
News Knob has a mathematics of its own. The bomb plus the names of the men in the control point plus a little background data equals the story. Mention that these men were in high school when the first atomic pile was activated. Mention that it would have taken that first pile 150,000 years to make enough plutonium to satisfy the bomb. Point out how the Cold War overcame all that. But tell mostly of the struggle to stop jackhammer this morning. Hello, New York.
Give me Barney, will you, honey? Tell him it's Pierce. Yeah, well, then call him at home. It's important. Hey, where'd you get the coffee? I need some. I'm freezing over here.
Here you go.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hello, Barney. Now, listen, you better call that off and go on into the office. This may develop into something out here. The bomb didn't go off. No, not a delay. It just didn't take. Well, the rumor we hear is that the last boys to hook it up are going to have to go out and coax it down. How do I know who it'll be? Yeah, I know that's what I'm here for. I know. Yeah, and Barney, don't call me. I'll call you.
The Marine lies flat now, permission granted. He hears wasted advice from his nearest neighbor on how to run an atom bomb test, but he thinks about Vegas, and he wonders whether he'll ever see her again, that girl with the dark hair, the dark eyes, the wonderful smile, and the Cadillac convertible. In the civil defense shelter, it's hot. No air conditioning for 40 minutes now, these heavy clothes and sealed up this way. Somebody better call control. They've bloody well forgotten us. But they haven't. More important things. Like the photo lab with the final pictures of the victim, Jack Hammer. Pictures of the bomb with its viscera displayed, A to B and yellow to ground. The proper circuit for agony.
Well, this one's okay. This one's all right. The pictures show the patch cords are all okay, Dr. Thurston.
Oh, wait a minute. Just a minute now. We've always assumed that if we got power to the site proper, that it would go on to the bomb.
Of course. The door to the cab completes the circuit. Voltage to the door, voltage to the bomb.
All right, then. What if the voltage didn't get beyond the door?
Oh, that's impossible. Our monitors show the door completely closed.
All right, but what if it didn't? For some reason.
What reason? What could go wrong that wouldn't show on the monitors?
I don't know, but it's got to be out there. Let me go check it.
I can't order anybody out there.
I'm asking to go.
I'll go with you, Frank.
No.
But if anybody goes, it should be two. You'd need a phone line during the climb in case we found anything here. You'd need test equipment, tools for opening the door manually, radiation test gear, and a wrench. That disconnect would have to be made immediately, Frank.
A wrench?
What's the matter? You look ill.
No, nothing, sir. I've had no sleep, I guess.
500 feet and no power for the elevator, Frank. I'll go with you.
All right. But I ought to go alone.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute. And now, we continue with Act 3 of Misfire, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
The afterbirth of darkness is light. That insipid gray light of a desert dawn. And the night animals scurry homeward. And the day things began their minor motions. And slowly it begins the gradual creep of light and warmth across the land. Till its source explodes in the vastness of the desert. And there it becomes the sudden kiss of heat. Heat that warms, heat that kills, and the in-between heat, the heat that expands. Man's product, that awkward wrench, lies in its cramped position on the tower. Having severed the connection to the bomb, it tries to make amends by stretching, ever so slightly expanding encouraged by the sun. The electronic condensers on the door await their cue, metal on metal. And that blinding concussion that has no beginning nor any end. And the tortoise, unaware, accepts his gift from the land and goes in search of his image.
I better go up first, John.
No, you got to man the phone. I'll start first, open the door manually, and check for radiation. Then you shoot in and disconnect the thing.
All right. Hey, John?
Yeah.
You think we'll ever get off the tower?
We may never get on it if we sit here and talk. Let's go.
Hello, Barney. Now, listen, they've started climbing the tower. That's right, 500 feet. I don't know how many stories that is. The Washington Monument is 550, I think, but... Now, look, get this, Barney. Play this one straight, will you? No heroics. This one will stand on its own. Sure, we're on a detonation alert. Well, who knows what's going to happen?
Fear of falling. It never goes away. It only becomes conditioned to the environment, and 500 feet straight up has no relation to man. To look down or not to look down, this becomes the problem. Then what do you look at? The eyes of the man below you? No. No, they reflect the fear of two men. The expanse of dry lake, do you look at that? No. It shimmers in the coming heat and brings on the dizziness. Or do you look inside? At the fear of God? Yes, you might look there. That might help. But for the most part, you climb. You lift each aching limb after the other. The next platform is the last. Well, the Irish do it in their land. The traveler never has more than a mile to go. Never. Just beyond that rise, sir. And then it becomes easier. The next platform. And then the next. And the next.
Rest a second, Frank. How you doing?
Okay. How much further?
One more platform, Frank. Just one more.
It's murder.
There's one consolation, though.
What?
Going down. We'll have power to the elevator afterwards, and we'll ride down.
Maybe. If there is an afterwards.
Get on the phone and tell Dr. Thurston we're here.
Okay. Dr. Thurston? Dr. Thurston?
Yes.
We're at the top.
Good. Have you found anything?
Grant is at the door now. We'll make a manual entry as soon as we can.
Good.
Frank, tell him to read the voltage sheet on this door. I don't think it's completely closed.
Check the voltage sheet on the door, Doctor.
Hey, Frank, come here.
What is it?
Yes, hello. Were you talking to me?
Hold it, Doctor.
Can you see it? Here. Look, from here. There's a small wrench.
Oh, no.
It's wedged in the door there. You see it?
John, it's mine. That's my wrench. I must have dropped it when we were up here arming the bomb.
It can happen. Look, through the glass. It severed the detonation circuit. That's what happened.
But it completed the door contact.
Sure, that's why the monitors didn't show it. Good Lord, Frank. Look how close it is to making contact.
John, that's going to go any second.
Take it easy now. Move and shade that thing. Heat expansion will set it off.
How's this?
Give me the phone. Dr. Thurston. Dr. Thurston, can you hear me?
Grant, is that you?
Now listen carefully. We've found the problem. A small hand wrench has been accidentally dropped into the door track.
Good Lord.
Now, apparently it severed the detonation circuit, but it's so close to making the contact now that we've got to have power to the door.
Not while you're there. Come off the tower. We'll open it.
No, you don't understand. The door condensers are already loaded with enough power to detonate the bomb.
Well, is the wrench above the contact?
Yes.
Then opening the door will drop the wrench and set it off.
Look, you got to give me power, just enough to make the door jump. I'm putting a pair of pliers on the wrench. I'll yank it out as soon as you loosen the door.
What if you miss?
I'll never know about it.
John, you got to do something fast. The sun is
Thurston, you've got to. You can't leave us like this.
I can't risk it. Try to get back.
No chance. Now, if you could only see it.
All right. I'll do it. Winship, give me ground zero power on my count. Just do it. I can't explain now. Grant?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Grant, I'll give you a 10-second count.
Make it 5.
All right, 5. Now get a good hold on that wrench. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are we out of it?
Nice going, John.
We're out of it, Thurston. We're out now. The bomb can't go off.
The desert sun works its subtle magic on the wrench, expanding ineffectually on the platform floor. The Marine stands up in the trench, The CD man sheds his top-secret uniform, strips to the cuff unashamed. The newsmen converge on ground zero. The redhead and the young, bald man hop from the welcome elevator to see a tortoise scurrying ponderously toward his burrow. And they pick him up. But he pretends not to be there at all. But he is. And they know it. So they take him back to control point to live for another day.
And now, tonight's presentation of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Fine feathers make fine birds. But, on the contrary, all is not gold that glitters. Also, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. To the wisdom of these eternal verities, add another. Crime does not pay. Mix well with a great singer turned dramatic actress, and you have our suspense story, The Well-Dressed Corpse, starring Miss Margaret Whiting, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Let's take just about a minute to talk about three little words which mean a great deal to people all over the world. Monarchy, oligarchy, and republic. The first of these, monarchy, means rule by a single person, such as a king or queen. The second, oligarchy, refers to a form of government in which the power is in the hands of a few, such as Russia's Kremlin. But to us, here in the United States, the most important of the three little words is the third, republic. A republic is a state in which the balance of power rests with the people as a whole and is exercised by representatives elected by the people and responsible to them. A republic is a free, popular government in which there are no classes having any exclusive political privileges and in which the voters are guided by constitutional authority. The importance of a republic is recognized by the Constitution, which in Article 4 says that the United States shall guarantee to every state in this Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and domestic violence. That's how your American Constitution works.
And now, The Well-Dressed Corpse, starring Miss Margaret Whiting. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
She's lying on the couch in my office. I thought I'd just let her alone until you showed up, Captain. That was considerate of you, Lieutenant. Here, in here. You sure that's her? I'm positive. Where was she picked up? In her bedroom? Hell's Kitchen and Alley. Somebody stole her dress, and one of the boys gave her his overcoat. Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Ruth Franklin.
How old are you?
33.
Where do you live?
On Park Avenue.
Go to school in this city?
Graduate School, Columbia University. I work for the Carrington Green Advertising Agency. My secretary's name is P.D. Wright. I'm the murderer you're looking for.
Okay. I guess you're Ruth Franklin, all right.
I can hardly blame you for not recognizing me. Did you know that 6 weeks ago I was voted one of the 10 best-dressed women in America?
I read something about it.
I always knew that someday I would be. But when it actually happened, it was just as exciting as if it had been a total surprise. The invitation to the luncheon to meet the press came on Monday. I ran right out and bought the most elegant and expensive dress I could find. When I swept into the luncheon, everyone was looking at me, including the other 9 well-dressed women. Percy Hamilton of Radcliffe Press, a little bald-headed man who moved and looked like a startled chipmunk, met me as I came in.
Oh, Miss Franklin, I'm so happy to see you. Right this way, please. You're a little late, you know.
Percy, baby, you've confused me perhaps with a debutante. I work for a living.
I'm going to put you here at table 13.
with Mr. Mason. Miss Franklin, may I present Mr. Mason?
How do you do?
How do you do?
You two are going to be luncheon partners. Well, I'll run along.
You, of course, couldn't be anyone else but the best-dressed Franklin.
I'm not sure I like the way you said that, Mr. Mason.
Well, my tone was not meant to imply a personal indictment, Miss Franklin. In fact, it's a commendation. You play your part very well in this best-dressed racket.
Racket?
Racket?
Oh, I always draw the most charming luncheon partners. It was undoubtedly something in your childhood. They must have made you wear Buster Brown collars or velveteen knickers.
I wore dungarees. No, it's just that I have the best prima facie evidence anyone ever had that this best-dressed business is a travesty on good taste and artistic judgment.
Before I move to another table, Mr. Mason, I might find it interesting to hear one sentence telling me why you feel this way.
I'd be happy to oblige. You see, I was picked as one of the best-dressed men.
Mr. Mason, I believe I'm beginning to value your opinion. Well, that's the way it began. Little careless banter while we sized each other up. And something in our measurements had meaning because despite speeches and cold chicken a la king and news photographers interfering with most of our conversation, we later found ourselves at the Stork Club discussing everything from Picasso to paperback novels. Sometime in the evening, he said he had to catch a plane somewhere, but he'd get in touch with me soon. The next morning, when I walked into my office, Petey, my secretary, was wearing the smug smile of a girl who caught her older sister with a boy on the back porch hammock.
Seen it yet, boss?
The gimbal ads? How were they?
I can wait.
All right. Seen what?
Picture of you and Roy Mason.
Mason? I hardly spoke a word to the man.
Hardly a word, huh? You know, that's a Stork Club ashtray in that picture. How did you converse? Smoke signals with your cigarette?
Petey, you're very close to being fired.
Let me read you what Winchell says. The most handsome twosome in town last night were Ruth Franklin, the best-dressed huckster, and Roy Mason.
Petey, what do you know about him?
I'll save you the embarrassment of asking me to get a file on him. I've already done it. Here you are, boss. The Life and Loves of Roy Mason, assembled by P.P. Wright, Girl Boswell.
All right. Tell it.
He's a foreign correspondent. Distinguished. He's written 2 books on world politics, The Long Road of Destruction and The Coming Asiatic Crisis. I've ordered both of them so you can talk his language. He's a Yale graduate, skull and bones, 38, unmarried. Just call me Quick.
Thank you and goodbye.
I'll just leave these things here so you can drool over them. Have fun.
Petey.
Yes, boss, ma'am?
You've had your fun. Now, hands off. I'm going to marry him. I read those clippings through from beginning to end, and when I went home that night, I took both of Roy Mason's books with me. And the following night, he called me. And then it was practically every evening, and cocktails and weekends, and intimate little dinners, fireplaces and books, and talk into the dawn. I knew, and I let the papers know, that Ruth Franklin had finally found a man who came up to her requirements. I had him hooked. Now it was time to reel him in.
Waiter, 2 more of the same, please.
Roy. I have some news I know you'll be interested in.
You are going to run for president.
No, nothing as small as that. I'm going to get married.
You're going to get what?
Married.
Oh? To whom?
A man named Roy Mason.
I see. Does he know anything about it?
Well, I've kept it a secret from him until I was sure. Now my mind's made up.
Just like that, huh?
Uh-huh. Pleased?
Well, let's say flattered and very, very sorry.
Why?
To have to decline the invitation. You see, Ruth, I'm already engaged.
Why didn't you tell me?
You didn't ask me.
Who is it?
Her name is Elizabeth Granger, a socialite from Long Island. You may know her.
No, and I have no desire to.
Ruth, what made you think we were going to be married?
I guess I believe my own press notices. Every columnist in town has been ringing wedding bells for us.
I never pay attention to columnists.
Well, I do, and so do a lot of other people. And what a Roman holiday they're going to make out of this.
Oh, boy, I can just see it. What best-dressed woman was left waiting at the church by what best-dressed man?
Well, I'll phone them tomorrow and tell them to lay off.
And make a bigger fool out of me? What do you think I am, a doorman, an old shoe that you
Ruth,
can just...
please lower your voice. People are looking.
Oh, let them look. A scene in a cocktail lounge makes good reading, and we always make the papers, don't we, lover?
Keep your voice down.
Why don't you go to Inner Mongolia or somewhere and write another book? Anywhere where I'll never have to see you again.
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute.
Somebody in our government has to do the housekeeping. See that the plumbing doesn't leak, that electricity and oil and coal aren't wasted, that the garden is kept in good shape, that the animals are fed, that the people have a place to enjoy themselves outdoors. Don't they? They certainly do. Well, all this is the work of the Department of the Interior, which at one time was called the Home Department. The biggest job of the department is conservation, the protection of the things that make our country a good place to live. The land, water, oil, coal, forests, minerals, fish, and wildlife. These are our natural resources. If it weren't for the conservation work of the Interior Department, it wouldn't be long before all the farm and grazing lands would be washed or blown away, and all the wildlife would disappear from the forests and the fields. Another important job of the department is the development of new natural resources and the caring for the national parks where people can go camping or sightseeing. And the Secretary of the Interior has a special job in wartime, making sure that the armed forces and defense industries get enough oil and other fuels. Good thing we've got some good housekeepers working for the Secretary of the Interior, isn't it? It sure is.
And now, we continue with Act 2 of The Well-Dressed Corpse, starring Miss Margaret Whiting. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Oh, leave it to me. I did a grand job. I made my exit like the second lead in a straw hat playhouse. The next day I didn't go to the office and I didn't read the papers. I knew what would be in them. I felt sick and soiled and used. The phone rang all day long, but I didn't answer it until late in the afternoon. Hello?
Me.
Oh.
Trying to get you all day.
What for?
To tell you that we're friends, you and I. I hate like the devil to think that you really meant it when you said you never wanted to see me again. I sent you a letter last night, but I'd rather tell you what I wrote in person.
Now, look, Roy.
No, let me go on. A man rarely meets a woman like you. I was lucky. Real lucky. Ruth, you can send me away altogether if you want to, but I'd miss you for the rest of my life. That's the truth.
But you're going to marry this...
Ruth, I want to talk with you calmly, decently, honestly. I want you for a friend. I'm mixing a couple of drinks in my apartment around 5 tonight. I hope you'll be there to share them with me.
Well, the colossal ego this man had. Yet he was offering me the opportunity to settle the matter my way. I took it.
Oh, you came. Thanks, Ruth. Let me take your coat?
No, it's a little chilly. I think I'll keep it on.
All right. Drink?
A very dry martini and a little soft music.
The record's on the turntable and the martini's already mixed. I knew you wouldn't pass up a Mason special.
You were rather certain your pretty speech on the phone would work, weren't you?
I meant it. I'm glad you're here, Ruth. All of that highly lacquered veneer you show your public is all right for them. But for me, I'll take you the way I know you.
Tell me more.
Underneath $40,000 a year and behind that best-dressed wardrobe, you're quite a gal.
Quite an ornament to wear on your sleeve.
Oh.
Until you're tired of it.
Oh, you don't understand,
Don't
Ruth.
touch me.
Ruth?
Yes, it's a gun, Roy.
For heaven's sake, Ruth. Ruth, stop this. You've got it all wrong. Put down that gun. Ruth. Ruth, get a doctor. We'll say it was an accident.
Stay away from me.
Phone a doctor. No. It wasn't supposed to be this way at all. Ruth! Ruth, I wrote you.
I stood there looking down at him. He tried to talk again, but he couldn't say a word. And then all of a sudden he was dead. I hadn't planned what I was going to do after I killed him, so I just sat down and finished my martini and looked at him lying there on the floor, and then I was aware of someone pounding.
Are you all right in there? What's happened? Hello, hello. Answer me, somebody.
Oh, hello, miss. I live in the apartment next door, and I thought I heard gunshots in here.
You did. Over there.
Well, I better phone the police. Where's the phone?
On the desk.
Hello, operator. Yes, I said the police. Right away. This thing will shoot.
I just walked out. No one tried to stop me. I got a taxi back to my own apartment, changed, threw some things into a bag, gathered up my jewelry and what money I had. I registered under another name at a small hotel on the west side. I knew I had to get out of the country, but before I left, there was someone I had to see. Elizabeth Granger, the woman he preferred to me.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute.
How would you like to be a successful farmer? Naturally, all of us would like to be successful in anything, particularly in our chosen field. But say you are a successful farmer, and you have 1 or 2 successful neighbors. However, there are other neighboring farmers who, for one reason or another, are not successful. Farmer Adams was hit by a flash flood coming out of the hills. And Brown and Fisher, though they're hard workers, just don't have the knowledge to make a farm pay off. What would you and your successful neighbors do? Would you sit back and allow the other farms to go under, no matter what hardship it might cause to the families? Would you say, let them fail, we'll buy them out when they're broke? Perhaps one of your neighbors might say that, but would you? Or would you go over and help Adams rebuild his farm? Would you go over to Brown and Fisher and say, look, neighbor, you're not planting the right thing here. It's not right for your soil. Let me show you what you can plant. Of course, unless you were greedy, that's what you would do. Throughout the world, that is what the Food and Agriculture Organization is doing. It is an agency of the United Nations, which is man's best hope for the world's welfare, peace, and justice.
And now, we continue with Act 3 of The Well-Dressed Corpse, starring Miss Margaret Whiting. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
The next night, there was a rosary for Roy at the Edgeflower Mortuary. I waited across the street. I wanted to see her walk in. I wanted to see how well she could take it. But Elizabeth Granger didn't appear at his rosary. The next morning, wearing dark glasses and a veil, I went to his funeral, but she didn't. Hello, Petey.
Don't you know the police are looking all over town for you?
Petey, who is Elizabeth Granger? Where does she live?
Oh, that.
She isn't in the phone book. She wasn't at his funeral. There are no pictures of her in the papers. You know these things. Tell me, please.
I can't help you. Nobody can help you now. You're a walking dead woman.
Petey, listen to me.
I don't want to listen to you. I'm afraid to. I don't want to end up like you someday. Well-fed, well-dressed, successful, but dead.
I came here for your help, not your opinions.
Everything you ever said in your life was a lie. I did your legwork, looked up things for you, verified them, checked them. And just to satisfy my curiosity, I checked about you, too. You didn't go to any graduate school at Columbia. You were born and brought up in Hell's Kitchen, and you went as far as PS 432. You hated everything you had and were, and you tried to wipe it out.
Tell me what you know about Elizabeth Granger.
I'll tell you this much. You're not going to have the pleasure of watching her suffer along with you. And I'll tell you how I know. Because Roy Mason wrote you a letter. I read it. because I never thought I'd see you again. Would you like to know what's in it?
Yes.
Makes you look 10 times as foolish as you do now. He said that there was no such person as Elizabeth Granger.
You're lying.
He just invented her. Just invented her to get away from you.
You're lying. There has to be an Elizabeth Granger.
Here's the letter. Look for yourself.
It's true. Every word of it. There was no Elizabeth Granger. Roy just didn't want me, and he had to find some excuse. I walked to the door wondering what to do, where to go.
One more thing, Bob. 10 seconds after you're out of that door, I'm going to call the police.
I ran out of the office, out of the building down Madison Avenue. I wanted to lose myself, but where? How? I walked and I walked and I walked, and I tried to understand. I tried to understand why I killed Roy. And everything that came into my mind revolted me. Oh, I needed a drink, a dozen drinks, 100 drinks.
You sure you're in the right place, lady?
Just give me a double bourbon. Scotch, triple, I don't care.
Well, okay, you're old enough.
Hurry it up. Here's my money.
Get a load of the doll. What would any dame dressed like that come in here for? Plumber. What are you, stupid or something? They like to come over to Hell's Kitchen. We're men are men, looking for thrills. Yeah. What do you think she came in here for? Thought it was 21 or something? Talk. Yeah. I'll show you how to handle a doll like that. Buy you a drink, ma'am?
No, get away from me.
No, you don't really mean that. Tony, the drink's on me. Why don't we have it in the booth over there? We can talk, huh?
Get away from me. Who do you think you are?
All right, that ain't no style. Who does she think she is? She got no right in here unless she wants to be sociable. She's a bum, and you know it, Tony. Eddie, can't you see this is a lady? Now go for a walk. Lady? Since when we got ladies in here?
You filthy...
Hey, wait a minute. This little bum. Hey, Eddie, you know who she is? Her picture was in the paper this morning. She killed somebody.
It would only be a matter of seconds until they called the police, so I ran. I saw a police car crossing the avenue, so I ran the other way. 2 blocks away, there was another police car at the intersection. I ducked into an alley and tripped and fell headlong into the dirty, foul smell. Well, I don't know how long I was out, but when I came to, somebody was pulling my new coat off.
Come on, dearie. Come on. Cooperate.
What are you doing?
You don't need this coat where you're going.
Leave my coat alone.
That's all right, dearie. All right, come on. Now the dress. The dress.
The dress?
Ruby, help me get it off her.
You can't take my dress off me.
I can use a fancy dress like that, and you can't wear it details.
Don't, please.
All right, stay where you are.
Grab her shoes, Ruby. Let's go.
My dress. They took my dress and my coat.
Stay where you are, lady.
You let them do it. Why did you let them do it?
We'll get him. Come on now, lady. Lift up your head. I want to take a look at you.
Oh, don't hurt me, please.
Uh-huh.
I'm somebody.
That's what I thought. Ruth Franklin.
I'm somebody. I'm somebody. I'm one of the 10 best-dressed women in the world.
Suspense, in which Miss Margaret Whiting starred in William N. Robeson's production of The Well-Dressed Corpse, written by E. Jack Newman and John Michael Hayes. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
publisher of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
Radio drama is an art form which developed slowly during the quarter century between the perfecting of the audio tube of Dr. Lee DeForest and the video tube of Dr. Vladimir Zwoyorkin. We feel that great radio plays, just as great stage plays, should be revived from time to time. So, to begin this 16th broadcasting year of Suspense, we are presenting a revival of one of the most famous radio plays of all time, Lucille Fletcher's unforgettable Sorry, Wrong Number. And of course, there is only one actress in the world entitled to play the leading role of a harassed Mrs. Stevenson. She who created the role 14 years ago, Miss Agnes Moorehead. Listen then to Sorry, Wrong Number.
And now, Sorry, Wrong Number, starring Miss Agnes Moorehead. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Operator, I've been dialing Murray Hill 40599. Now, for the last 3/4 of an hour, and the line is always busy. I don't see how it could be busy that long. Will you try it for me, please?
I will be glad to try that number for you. One moment, please.
You see, it's my husband's office. He's working late tonight, and I'm all alone here in the house. My health is very poor, and I've been feeling so nervous all day.
I am ringing Murray Hill 40599.
Hello? Hello, is Mr. Stevenson there?
Hello? Hello, George? Yes, boss, this is George speaking.
Hello, who's this? What number is this, please?
I'm here with our client. Oh, good. Is everything set up for tonight? Yes, George. He says everything is set up. Good.
What number is this, please?
Where are you now? In a phone booth. Don't worry, everything's okay in my department. Very well. You got the address? Sure, I got it all cased. At 11 o'clock, the private patrolman goes around to a bar on 2nd Avenue for a beer. Yes. At 11:15, a train crosses the bridge. It makes a noise in case her window is open and she should scream.
Hello?
Remember, George, make it quick. Our client doesn't wish her to suffer long. I'll use a knife then. Yes, a knife will do very well. And remember, afterwards, remove her rings and bracelets and the jewelry in the bureau drawer. Our client wishes it to look like simple robbery. I know. Don't worry. I never muff for a job like this. Everything's okay. I never...
How unspeakably awful. Operator, I've just been cut off.
I'm sorry. What number were you calling?
Well, it was supposed to be Murray Hill 40599, but it wasn't. Some wires must have got crossed, and I was cut into a wrong number, and I just heard the most dreadful things. Something about a murder. And, operator, you'll simply have to trace that call at once.
What was the number?
Well, I don't know. It was a wrong number, and these two men, they were cold-blooded fiends. And they were going to murder somebody, some poor, innocent woman who was all alone in a house near a bridge. We've got to stop them.
What number were you calling?
Well, that doesn't matter. It was a wrong number. Now, look, it was obviously a case of some little slip of the finger. I asked you to get me Murray Hill 40599 to dial it, but your finger must have slipped. And I was connected with some other number. I could hear them, but they couldn't hear me. Now, I simply fail to see why you couldn't make that same mistake again on purpose, why you couldn't try to dial Murray Hill 40599 in the same sort of careless way.
Murray Hill 40599. I will try to get it for you.
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry, Murray Hill 40599 is busy.
But, operator...
Yes, ma'am?
You didn't try to get that wrong number at all. I asked you explicitly, and all you did was dial correctly.
I'm sorry. I will connect you with the supervisor.
Well, please.
This is the supervisor. May I help you?
Yes, I want you to trace a call, a telephone call immediately. I don't know where it came from or who was making it, but it's absolutely necessary that it be traced because it was about a murder that someone's planning. A terrible, cold-blooded murder of a poor, innocent woman. Tonight. at 11:15.
I see.
Well, can you trace it for me? Can you track down those men?
I'm not certain. I can try. May I have your name, please?
Mrs. Stevenson. Mrs. Albert Stevenson. But listen...
And your telephone number, please?
Plaza 37599. But if you go on wasting all this
Why
time...
do you want this call traced, please?
Why? Well, I told you why. These men sounded like killers. They're dangerous. They're going to murder this woman at 11:15 tonight, and I thought the police ought to know.
Have you reported this to the police?
Well, no, not yet.
You want this call checked purely as a private individual?
Well, yes, but meanwhile...
I'm sorry, Mrs. Stevenson, but I'm afraid we couldn't trace the call just on your say-so as a private individual. We'd have to have something more official.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Well, all right, I'll call the police.
Thank you. I'm sure that would be the best way to get...
Ridiculous.
Operator?
The police department. Get me the police department, please.
Thank you. I will connect you with the police department.
Oh, dear. You have to dial. Can't you ring them directly?
Police station, precinct 43, Sergeant Martin speaking.
Police department? Oh, this is Mrs. Stevenson. Mrs. Albert Smythe Stevenson of 53 North Sutton Place. I'm calling up to report a murder. I mean, the murder hasn't been committed yet, but I overheard plans for it over the telephone, over a wrong number that the operator gave me.
Yes, ma'am.
It was a perfectly definite murder. I heard their plans distinctly. Two men were talking, and they were going to murder some woman at 11:15 tonight. She lived in a house near a bridge. Are you listening to me?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was a private patrolman on the street. He was going to go around for a beer on 2nd Avenue. And there was some third man, a client, who was paying to have this poor woman murdered. They were going to take her rings and bracelets and use a knife. Well, it's just unnerved me dreadfully, and I'm not well.
I see, and when was all this, ma'am?
About 8 minutes ago.
And what was that number you were calling?
Murray Hill 40599. But that wasn't the number I overheard. I mean, Murray Hill 40599 is my husband's office. He's working late tonight, and I was trying to reach him to ask him to come home. I'm an invalid, you know, and it's the maid's night off, and I hate to be alone, even though he says I'm perfectly safe as long as I have the telephone right beside my bed.
Well, we'll look into it, Mrs. Stevenson, see if we can check it with the telephone company.
Check it! I've already taken care of that.
Oh, you have?
Yes, and personally I feel you want to do something far more immediate and drastic than just check the call. I say the whole thing calls for a search. A complete and thorough search of the whole city. I'm very near the bridge, and I'm not far from 2nd Avenue, and I know I'd feel a whole lot better if you sent around a radio car to this neighborhood at once.
And what makes you think the murder's going to be committed in your neighborhood, ma'am?
Well, I don't know. Only the coincidence is so horrible. 2nd Avenue, the patrolman, the bridge.
Look, lady, why don't you look at it this way? Supposing you hadn't broken in on that telephone call. Supposing you got your husband the way you always do. You wouldn't be so upset, would you?
Well, I suppose not, only it sounded so inhuman, so cold-blooded.
Unless, of course, you have some reason for thinking that someone may be planning to murder you.
Me? Oh, no, I hardly think so. I mean, why should anybody? I'm alone all day and night. I see nobody except my maid, Eloise. She's a big girl. She weighs 200 pounds. She's too lazy to bring up my breakfast tray. And the only other person is my husband, Albert. He's just crazy about me. He just adores me. Waits on me hand and foot. Has scarcely left my side since I took sick 12 years ago.
Well, then there's nothing for you to worry about. Now, if you'll just leave the rest of this to us, we'll take care of it.
But what will you do? It's so late. It's nearly 11 now.
We'll take care of it, lady.
Well, will you broadcast it all over the city and send out squads? And warn your radio cars to watch out, especially in suspicious neighborhoods like mine.
Look, lady, I said we'd take care of it. Just now I've got a couple of trunks here that require my immediate attention. Good night, ma'am, and thank you.
Oh, you idiot. Oh. Now, why did I hang up the phone like that? Now he'll think I am a fool. Oh, why doesn't Albert come home? Why doesn't he? Get the operator. Operator, for heaven's sake, will you ring that Murray Hill 40599 number again? I can't see what's keeping him so long.
I will try it for you. I'm sorry, Murray Hill 40599 is busy.
I can hear it. You don't have to tell me. I know it's busy. Oh, I I can only get out of this bed for a little while. If I could just get a breath of fresh air or just lean out of the window and see the street. Oh. Hello? Albert? Hello? 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 Oh, what's the matter with this phone? Hello? Hello? What in the world? Hello? Hello? Oh, for heaven's sake, who is this? Hello? 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 What in the world? What are they trying to do to me anyway?
Operator.
Hello, operator. I don't know what's the matter with this telephone tonight, but it's positively driving me crazy. I've never seen such inefficient, miserable service. Now, look, I'm an invalid, and I'm very nervous, and I'm not supposed to be annoyed. But if this keeps on much longer...
What seems to be the trouble, please?
Well, everything's wrong. I haven't had one bit of satisfaction out of one call I've made this evening. The whole world's a big murder for all you people care, and now my phone keeps ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing every 5 seconds, but I pick it up this over there.
I'm sorry. If you will hang up, I will test it for you.
I don't want you to test it for me. I want you to put that call through, whoever it is. At once.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
You can't. Oh, you can't. And why? Why, may I ask?
The dial system is automatic.
Automatic. And meanwhile, I've got to sit here in my bed suffering every time that phone rings, imagining everything.
I will try to check the trouble for you.
Oh, for heaven's sake, I'm going to go out of my mind. Hello? Hello? Stop ringing me. Do you hear? Answer me. Who is this? You realize you're driving me crazy? Who's calling me? What are you doing it for? Now, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I say, hello? If you don't stop ringing me, I'm going to call the police. You hear? The police. Oh, if Albert would only come home. Oh, let it ring. Go on, ring. Trick of some kind. I won't answer it. I will go on, ring, 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 ring. Stop it! I can't stand it anymore. Stop it! Hello, what do you want? Stop ringing, will you? Stop it! Just stop.
Hello, is this Plaza 37599?
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. This is Plaza 37599.
This is Western Union. I have a telegram here from Mrs. Albert Stevenson.
Oh, well, I'm Mrs. Stevenson.
The telegram is as follows. Darling, terribly sorry. Tried to get you for last hour, but line busy.
Oh.
Leaving for Boston 11 p.m. tonight on urgent business.
Oh, no.
Back tomorrow afternoon. Keep happy. Love, signed Albert.
Oh, no.
Do you wish us to deliver a copy of the message?
No, thank you.
Thank you, madam. Good night.
Good night. Oh, no. I don't believe it. He couldn't do it. Not when he knows I'll be all alone. It's some trick, some fiendish trick. Operator, try that Murray Hill 40599 number for me just once more, please.
You may dial that number direct.
Oh, I can't. No one will do anything for me. He's got to be there. Oh, he's gone. Oh, Albert, how could you? How could you? I can't be alone tonight. I just can't. If I'm alone one more second, I'll go mad. I don't care what he says or what the expense is. I'm a sick woman. I'm entitled to a little consideration. Information. I want the telephone number of Henchley Hospital.
Henchley Hospital? Do you have the street address?
No, but it's somewhere in the 70s. It's a very small, private, and exclusive hospital where I had my appendix out 2 years ago. Henchley, H-E-N-C.
One moment, please.
Well, please hurry. And please, what is the time?
You may find out the time by dialing Meridian 71212.
Oh, for heaven's sake, I've no time to be dialing.
The Henchley Hospital is Butterfield 82598.
Oh. Butterfield 8. 2. 9. 8. Nurses registry, please.
Who was it you wish to speak to, please?
I want the nurses registry at once. I want a trained nurse. I want to hire her immediately for the night.
I see. And what is the nature of the case, madam?
Nerves! I'm very nervous. I need soothing and companionship. You see, my husband is away.
Have you been recommended to us by any doctor in particular, madam?
No.
And our superintendent has asked us to send people out only in those cases where the physician in charge feels it is absolutely necessary.
Well, it is absolutely necessary. I'm a sick woman. I'm very upset. I'm alone in this house, and I'm an invalid. And tonight I overheard a telephone conversation that upset me dreadfully. In fact, if someone doesn't come at once, I'm afraid I'll go out of my mind.
I see. Well, I'll speak to Miss Phillips as soon as she comes in.
Miss Phillips?
And what is your name, madam?
When do you expect her in?
Well, I really couldn't say. She went out to supper at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock? But it's not 11 yet. Where's my clock? Oh, my clock has stopped. Oh, what time is it?
Just 15 minutes past 11.
Oh, what was that?
What, madam?
That click, just now, in my own telephone. As though someone has lifted the receiver off the hook of the extension phone downstairs.
I didn't hear it, madam. Now about...
But I did! There's someone in this house. Someone downstairs in the kitchen, and they're listening to me now. I won't pick it up. I won't let them hear me. I'll be quiet and unhealthy. If I don't call someone now, while they're still down there, there'll be no time. I've got to get the operator. I've got to get the operator. Operator, I'm in desperate trouble.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Please speak louder.
I don't dare. There's someone listening. Can you hear me now?
I'm sorry.
But you've got to hear me. Oh, please, you've got to help me. There's someone in this house. Someone who's going to murder me, and you've got to get in touch with him. There it is. Did you hear it? He's put it down. He's put down the extension phone. He's coming up. He's coming up the stairs. Oh, give me the police department. Give me the police department.
One moment, please. I will connect you.
Please. The police got to hurry. Get the police. Oh, my God. What he was. Oh, don't come near me. Please, I haven't hurt any. Sonny, please, I haven't. Please don't hurt me. Please. I haven't hurt any.
Police Department, Precinct 43. Sergeant Martin speaking. Police Department, Precinct 43. Sergeant Martin speaking.
Police Department? Sorry, wrong number. Don't worry, everything is okay here.
Suspense. In which Miss Agnes Moorehead starred in William N. Robeson's production of Sorry, Wrong Number, written by Lucille Fletcher. Supporting Miss Moorehead in Sorry, Wrong Number were Jeanette Nolan, Virginia Gregg, Ellen Morgan, Joe DeSantis, Byron Kane, and Norm Alden. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with The Country of the Blind by H.G. Wells. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. This is the CBS Radio Network. Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
H.G. Wells was one of the most remarkable writers of this century. A storyteller whose tales are more than mere entertainment designed for a moment of escape. They linger on in memory, seducing one into that sometimes dangerous and risky practice of thinking. Such a story you're about to hear. A story with a shattering moral. A story we guarantee you will not soon forget. Listen then as Mr. Raymond Burr stars in The Country of the Blind by H.G. Wells.
And now, The Country of the Blind, starring Mr. Raymond Burr. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Once I had made my way across the Cordillera, I had to find Senor Cartwright if he was still alive. For it was he who had seen me last. That terrible night more than a year ago when I slipped and fell from a ledge 18,000 feet up the face of Mount Paris-Cotepetl. It was a long and painful journey, but at last I arrived at the mine, high in the Andes above Quito, where Senor Cartwright was superintendent. I dragged my aching feet across the porch of his shack and tapped on the door.
Come in.
Senor Cartwright, is it you?
Yes? What do you want?
You do not know me, Senor?
I know. You look like a man I knew once, but
he is dead. Dead on the slopes of Paris-Cotepetl.
Nunez, the guide. Why, no, it couldn't be.
Nunez, the guide, si, senor. That is what I was called.
But you fell. I saw you fall.
Yes.
Why, it's unbelievable.
Perhaps the gods of the mountain had reason to spare me.
Nunez, if we'd had any idea, we would have...
I know. I do not blame you. You could not have reached me, and if you had, I should not have welcomed you. Not at first, but later.
What do you mean?
Senor, you have heard the legend of the country of the blind?
Yes. Something about a fertile valley high in the mountains which was cut off centuries ago by a great landslide. Yes, the people who lived there had developed a strange illness which slowly made them blind, and after that their children were born blind?
Yes.
But what has that got to do?
It is no legend, senor. It is true.
What?
And you have heard the saying, in the country of the blind, a one-eyed man is king?
Yes.
That is not true, senor.
I'm afraid I don't follow you, Nunez. Suppose you begin at the beginning.
Very well. You remember that night on the face of the mountain?
I'll never forget it. Trapped on a ledge scarcely a yard wide, you, Williamson, and I. You had unfastened your safety rope and were trying to set up a shelter when you slipped.
Yes, I slipped and fell. Down through the icy black night. I fell perhaps 1,000 feet before I felt the heavy, stinging impact of snow. I'd fallen onto an almost perpendicular slope, and then I was sliding, tumbling over and over, and under me, around me, an immense avalanche of snow was rumbling, sliding with me. I fell with the snow for what seemed minutes, every second expecting the terrible, final impact. But the impact never came. Slowly, the avalanche subsided, flowing out upon a gentler slope, and finally, mercifully, I lost consciousness. When I awoke, it was morning. My clothes were torn. I was bruised and bleeding. I ached in every muscle, but I had not one single broken bone. I lay there and offered up a prayer of thanksgiving to the gods of the mountain. Below me lay a lush valley, sparkling in the morning sunlight. I could see the stately trees and the green meadows fresh with dew. And then I saw them. People, men and women, working in the fields. Two of them who were quite close failed to notice me as I approached until I shouted. Only then did they look up attentively in my direction. I waved wildly at them, but they took no notice. Why, the fools must be blind. Blind? Could it be that I had fallen into the country of the blind? As that realization came over me, I remembered the words, "In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." I walked toward the men, and I spoke to them. Hello. Oh, hello there.
Who is this man? Or is he a spirit come down from the rocks?
Oh, I'm a man, all right, just like you. But I've had a miraculous escape. And now I find myself here in your valley.
Valley? What is valley? Come hither. Let me feel of you.
Certainly. Here, my arm, my face. You see, I'm indeed a man like yourself. My lips move with speech. You feel... Here, careful there. Careful, gently on the eyes.
Eyes? What are eyes? This is strange. Feel this, Korea. Yes. He is imperfectly formed. Some strange bulge there. Unseemly.
No, your eyes are shrunken in, but mine are whole. I can see.
See? Pedro, he is a strange wild one. I wonder where he comes from. Down out of the rock?
No, over the mountains, out of the country beyond there, where men can see. From Bogota, where there are 100,000 people, and the city stretches out of sight.
Sight? What strange words he uses, without meaning. We must lead him to the elders.
No need to lead me, I can see.
See? His senses are still imperfect. Lead him by the hand.
But look, I can... Oh, well, all right. These people had been blind for centuries. They'd forgotten even the words associated with seeing. They did not know what sight was, and they thought me an idiot, only half-formed. Especially when they led me into the pitch blackness of one of their windowless huts, and I stumbled over some...
1,000 pardons, Medina Cerote. He is a clumsy one.
I'm sorry I fell down. I could not see in the darkness.
Who is this? And what does he say? He is but newly formed. He has come down from the rocks. He stumbles as he walks, and mingles words that mean nothing with his speech. He is a wild man out of the rocks.
No, I come from Bogota, over the mountains.
You hear? Bogota. He uses wild words. That must be his name, Bogota. He stumbled twice as we came hither. He must be taught.
No, you don't understand. I can see, but not in the dark. To you, darkness or light, it's all the same. But to me, to us who can see, to us outside in the world beyond the mountain...
Mountain? What are mountains?
Very well, then, beyond the rocks.
There is nothing beyond the rocks. That is the end of the world.
But surely you must realize the sky above covers more than this valley.
Sky? Above? There is nothing above but the roof of rock. He is very raw, my children. He shall have to be taught from the beginning. Take him away. Feed him. It shall be done, but guide him. See that he does not stumble over my daughter again.
I shall guide him myself, Father. And feed him.
Very well.
Come, take my hand.
Yes, thank you. It will be a pleasure to get outside again, out of this darkness.
Come this way.
What is your name?
Medina Sarote.
Mine is Juan Nunez. And sunlight. This is better. Now I may look at you. Senorita. You're beautiful. I have not the words to tell you what a wonderful thing you are to see. And so it began. I, the village idiot, the slave boy, I with my eyes still whole. I fell in love with Medina Sarote, the daughter of the elder of the village. Only to her could I open my heart. Only to her could I speak of the beauty I could see around me. It is a beautiful valley. Green with grass and yellow with sunlight and flowers, bright flowers dotting the hills.
And you said I was beautiful too?
Yes, Medina Sarote. Yes, you are most beautiful.
It means something nice.
Something very nice. Medina Sarote, why is it you have no husband?
I have a disfigurement. These long hairs.
Your eyelashes. But they are beautiful.
They are considered disfigurement.
Why? You are the most lovely girl in the valley. But they wouldn't know here, would they? So you have no husband?
No.
What do you think of me? Do you think of me like all the rest do? Do you think of me as an idiot?
No, you have much to learn, but you will learn it, I'm sure. And you are kind and gentle. And your voice is soft. You speak the words that are soft and warm. No one has ever spoken such words to me.
I shall speak them often. Medina Sarote, I love you.
And I love you.
Then, will you marry me?
I would be very happy to.
No, I will not have it.
But, Father...
He is an idiot. He has delusions. He cannot do anything right.
But he is getting better. He's better than he was. And he is strong and kind, stronger and kinder than anyone in the world. And he loves me. And I love him.
No, I will not have it.
Great sire, if you please.
Yes, what is it, good doctor?
I have examined Bogota, and the case is clear to me. I think very probably he might be cured.
And how might that be done?
His brain is affected by something. I believe I know what it is. Those queer things he calls eyes. Where we have but an agreeable depression, he has great lumps. Consequently, his brain is in a constant state of irritation.
But what can be done to cure him?
It is a very simple surgical operation. Remove the cause of the irritation. We will merely cut out those things he calls eyes.
This, then, was the price of my happiness. To marry Medina Sarote, I must give up my eyes and never see her again.
But they say it will make you well, my beloved.
You don't understand, Medina Sarote. There are so many beautiful things to see in the world. The flowers, the far sky with its drifting clouds, the sunsets, the stars, and you, just to see you. I would never see you again.
You will never regret it, my dearest one. My dearest with a tender voice.
Medina.
Be brave.
carry my voice in your heart. And tomorrow...
Yes?
Tomorrow will be forever.
I only meant to go up on the rocks and look out over the valley. To spend my last day of sight feasting my eyes on the wonderful, beautiful world of light and color. I drank it in, the green of the fields, the blue of the gently curving stream, the orange of the lichen in the rocky crevasses. I climbed higher to see the great snow-capped peaks towering above and away to the distant sky, and higher as the shadows turned the snow to purple and crimson and deep blue. The valley was far below and as beautiful as a painting, but like a painting, unreal. Medina Soroti was small and far away, a distant dream. The world of sight was here, all around, overpowering, wonderful. I turned and began to climb up that sheer rock wall. How many months it took me to make my way out over those mountains, over glaciers and snowfields and sheer precipices, I cannot guess. How I lived through the cold and the hunger of it, I cannot tell you. But I'm here at last. Back from the country of the blind.
Good heavens, man. What a terrible experience.
Terrible and wonderful.
But you aren't sorry you came back?
Sorry? I see her face clearly now. It is the only thing I do see.
Nunez. You are...
Yes. The gods of the mountain have had their revenge. Those months of crawling over the snow and ice with the sun glaring down. Yes. Yes. I'm blind.
Suspense. In which Mr. Raymond Burr starred in William N. Robeson's production of The Country of the Blind, written by H.G. Wells and adapted for radio by John Dunkel. Supporting Mr. Burr in The Country of the Blind were Peggy Weber, Ben Wright, Ed Jerome, Edgar Barrier, and Jay Novello. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
Mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
The story you are about to hear may require accessory equipment in addition to your radio set, especially if you're a parent. We suggest that you provide yourself with a glass of water to slake the dryness in your mouth and melt the lump in your throat, and also a handkerchief or some other suitably absorbent material to cope with your tears. It is a story of unpremeditated murder. The unwitting and unplanned killing of a little boy by his father. It is a story in which fate overtakes love and tragedy lurks in the Blue Empyrean. It is a story you will not soon forget. Listen then, as Miss Ruth Huzzy stars in Firing Run, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Not many of us grew up in an orphanage. In fact, very few of us have ever set foot in an orphanage. Still, none of us would deny that they are a good thing. The same holds true for children's clinics. But say you lived in a town where there was no medical clinic for children. Then, one election day, a proposition calling for one appears on the ballot. What would you mark in the little square opposite the proposition? Put an X opposite no, saying to yourself,
These kids are no concern of mine. Or would you turn it over in your mind and then place an X opposite yes, knowing that the underprivileged children should be helped? Of course you would. You know deep in your heart that at least the health of these children should be safeguarded. Not only because they are children, but for two other reasons. First, you dislike suffering. And second, because they are the future. You would do your best to see to it that they receive the necessary medicine and the necessary fundamental foods to enable them to grow up as healthy and as strong as you are. Throughout the world, that is what UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, is doing. It is a special agency of the United Nations, which is man's best hope for the future, for peace, and for justice.
And now, Firing Run, starring Miss Ruth Huzzy. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Some of them look like killers, the aces of World War II and Korea. Others, like Mark, are gentle and won't talk of combat. Mark would never speak of war, but I know that what happened to him in the blue New Mexico sky that morning left a scar deeper than any he'd had in action. Mark had been an ace in Korea, and he's won more aerial gunnery meets than any other regular captain in the Air Force. He's so good that for years he's been the #1 test pilot on guns and rockets at desert proving grounds. A pleasant life for all four of us. Once I'd learned to get used to sand in the rugs and scorpions in the backyard. A settled life, almost like a civilian, until that horrible morning. Mark had a rocket test flight, so the day started early with the four of us at breakfast.
Hap, would you pass the cream, please?
Oh, Judy.
Hap, hold the handle toward your father. I've told you.
I forgot. Dad, can I watch the drone take off? Me too.
What, big shot?
Watch the Flying Fortress take off.
I don't want you kids cluttering up that flight line today. This is the last firing run of the series.
And there's also the small matter of school.
Sergeant Crenshaw said I should help him start the engines again.
Are you sure he did?
Yeah, Dad, honest.
All right.
Daddy, are you going to fly the big plane? Nobody flies the big plane. It flies itself, stupid.
Hap, I warned you about talking to your brother like that.
Yes, Mother. Look, Petey. Lieutenant Cameron, you know him. He flies the big plane. Only he flies it from the ground by radio. Then Dad shoots it down with rockets from his jet. See? Like this.
Finish your breakfast.
I could fly the big plane. I'll bet. I can, too, Fly. I flew my scooter yesterday right over the PX. You're a liar.
Hap, I'll not warn you again.
Well, he is a liar.
He's just going through a stage. Oh, now what? Oh, hi, Cassie.
Hello, Mrs. Stacy. Can Hap come out and play?
Sure. Go play with your new conquest, the Colonel's daughter. What a politician.
Oh, I am not.
Your school bus is due in 20 minutes, so don't get lost.
That's so too, Mom.
You clear out, too, then. And don't bang the door. Oh, honestly.
Never a dull moment.
Is this the big day, darling?
It sure is. Every brass hat in the Pentagon's waiting for the results.
Goodness, don't miss.
You sound like Don Cameron. He offered to make the drone fly straight and level, so I couldn't miss.
Why don't you let him?
Oh, this is a test, Sue. Enemy planes don't fly straight and level. They twist and turn and evade. We don't prove the rocket if I shoot down a sitting duck just to look good.
That's my boy.
Well, I got a charge.
Will you be home for lunch?
Yes.
Dee, your father's leaving. Where are they?
We'll skip it. Probably heading for the flight line to drive the sergeant nuts. Don't worry.
Don't worry, he said. And I didn't. As I headed back for the dishes, my mind was on the day's marketing, not on Hap or Petey. If I'd only known where they were.
Hap, my father told me to stay off the field. It's okay, Kathy. Sergeant Crenshaw's my buddy. That's his road on the runway.
He already started the engine. He said I could help. Well, come on. Let's go see him in the cockpit anyway.
Oh, golly, have my daddy shoot me.
Come on. You ever been in a flying fortress?
No.
Well,
but...
come on then.
Oh,
I want to come too. You go home. You're a fibber. We don't want fibbers around. All right, yeah, I didn't mean it, but listen, you go home anyway. You might get hurt. Come on, Kathy.
do you think we ought to?
Come on, hang on to my hand.
It's so windy. It's blowing my breath.
Just a flat glass. Hang on low like this, okay?
I don't like it half as so bad.
Nah, come on. We'll run through the bomb bay. Here. Help me up.
It's smoky here.
Well, follow me along the catwalk. Don't slip, no. Oh, boy. Here's the flight deck. Here's where the navigator sits. And upstairs was...
Pap? What's wrong?
He's not here. The sergeant's not here.
Pap, I want to go.
Yeah, come on.
He's ready to roll.
No, Sergeant! Hey, no! We're moving! The plane's taking off!
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute.
You know, somebody someday may recommend that the Department of Agriculture be called the Department of General Scientific Progress, because of all things, someone from this department has helped improve our rubber tires, our shoe leather, even our mattress stuffing. However, with all this serving of all the people, the department is especially set up to help the farmers. Now, back in the days when it was just getting organized and explaining to Congress why it needed more money, the department acted only as a sort of clearinghouse for information farmers picked up and passed on about better ways to grow corn, raise pigs, and so on. Then farmers started asking questions about getting rid of blights and parasites and other farming problems, and the department had to dig up the right answers. As an example of their success in improving farm operations, egg production in the past 50 years has been increased over 300%. As a result of the expert advice on feeding and raising poultry developed by workers in the Department of Agriculture. Among their jobs today, department chemists invent bug killers, fertilizers, and discover new ways to use products farmers have been growing since the beginning of time. Can you imagine making mucilage from sweet potatoes, paper from corn stalks, paintbrushes from milk, and wood as strong as steel? Hey, wonder if the Department of Agriculture will ever develop a tree that grows money, huh?
And now, we continue with Act 2 of Firing Run, starring Miss Ruth Huzzy. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Take one for Kathy and one for your brother. And tell them it's time for the school bus.
They flew an airplane. They flew an airplane.
I can't understand a word you say with your mouth full.
I said Captain Cassie flew an airplane.
Oh, Petey, don't fib like that.
They did.
Now, Petey, listen to me. Mommy knows you aren't really a fibber, but other people don't. So just try to say only what happens, what really and truly happens. All right?
Right.
Now, go and tell Hap it's time for the bus.
He flew away in the airplane with Cassie.
Petey, stop that fibbing.
Did, Mommy, really and truly. He got into his tummy, and then it flew away.
What kind of an airplane?
The big one.
A drone? Oh, no. Well, they couldn't have. Petey, so help me if you're lying. Now, come on.
Air Force 647 from ground control. Air Force 647 from ground control.
How do you read me, 647?
Ground control, clear, 4647. I read you badly. 253, very garbled.
Our transmitter's okay, Lieutenant. Must be his receiver.
Yeah, okay, Sergeant. Mark, you're coming in loud and clear. The trouble's at your end. Air Force 647 from ground control. We read you 4 square. I say again, we read you.
I'm not worried about it now. When the storm reaches 12,000, I'll make my first fire. Air Force 647, over and out.
What's that Jane doing here? Joe, tell her to get that cotton-picking car off the flight line.
Oh, wait a minute. It's Captain Stacy's wife. See what she wants, Sergeant. Air Force 647. This is ground control. I say again, Mark.
I'm afraid you can't stay out here, Mrs. Stacy. We're running a firing test.
Well, I know, Sergeant. I'm not sure, of course, but I think... Well, it's possible that my boy is in the drone.
What? Cap?
I think so. And Colonel Master's daughter.
Oh, now, Mrs. Stacy, that couldn't be. It just couldn't.
I think they are.
No, ma'am. I buttoned up that drone myself. I started the engines and lined her up on the runway, and there's nobody in there.
Are you sure?
Absolutely certain. Now, you just drive on home, and I'll bet you'll find that young fellow robbing your icebox. Oh, hi there, Petey.
Oh, Sergeant.
I didn't see you in the back seat. Know where your brother is, Petey?
He says he saw them get in the plane.
Oh, so that's it. Well, my little boy did the same thing when he was your age. But, Petey, we don't like storytellers in the Air Force.
We did too, get in. He got in the back, and you got out the front.
Oh?
And then you drove off.
Drove up in what?
That Jeep.
What Jeep? Which one?
The Jeep with the red flag on it.
He's right, Mrs. Stacy. He isn't telling a story. Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute.
How are you on riddles? Well, here's one for you to answer. What makes a country strong and active? You give up? Well, the answer is a healthy constitution. Yes, sir, a sound, healthy constitution can cure anything that's wrong. And the American Constitution is one of the soundest. You take voting, for example. Nearly 65% of the population in the United States is eligible to vote. And most of them take advantage of the opportunity. However, voting in the United States is actually a privilege and not a right, since the Constitution gives no one the right to vote. But it has removed certain unhealthy restrictions under which United States citizens otherwise qualified to vote were once denied the privilege. The 15th and 19th Amendments to the Constitution assure citizens that they cannot be prevented from voting because of their race, color, previous condition of servitude, or sex. And nowhere does the Constitution prevent the people from voting for the candidate of their choice. Well, as you can see, the primary concern of the Constitution is the health and well-being of the people of the United States. That's how your American Constitution works.
And now, we continue with Act 3 of Firing Run, starring Miss Ruth Huzzy. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
On the ground, it was horrible, with Don Cameron trying hopelessly to contact Mark, and Mark's unheeding voice crackling from the radio.
Jet 647 from ground control. Mark, break off. Do not make your run. Mark, break off. Abort your run.
I could see the vapor trails now high over the desert, the white track of the ancient bomber crawling across the sky. Mark tracing a contrail swiftly and precisely above and behind it, overtaking it. It was horrible on the ground, but when I thought of the terrified children in the cockpit, then it was unbearable.
Cassie, Petey will kill him. The school bus must have burned him. Mama asked Petey and he'll kill him. Maybe they won't believe that. Yes, they will, too. Cassie, look, there he is. What? Oh, right there. Look, see way high. See the contrail? Oh, Cass, I want my father. He's turning. Baby, no.
no use. I can't contact him at all.
What are we going to do, Don?
I don't know. Pray that he misses.
That guy doesn't miss. Lieutenant, can't you dive her for the deck and land?
Dive that old wreck and pull the wings off it.
Wait, there he is again.
Suddenly, it was not Mark at all. That cold, relentless voice chanting a song of death. It couldn't be Mark. It was the voice of a stranger, a killer, stalking my little boy. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Sue, snap out of it. Hang on to yourself.
Make it good, he says.
Now, look, Sue, I'll do my best. Just before he reaches his point of release, I'll try a high wing over. It'll shake up the kids, but if the wings stay on...
There he goes, Lieutenant. There he goes.
Wait. We've got to wait till the last second. Look, Sue.
No.
I can't hardly believe it. He missed. You foxed him, Lieutenant, this time.
Very nice, John. Very nice. Now, I'll try the second column. I'll line up better this time.
Oh, darling, please.
He won't miss twice, Lieutenant. You know that.
I'm in position. Starting my second firing line. Make sure it makes action.
If we can just do it again. Just once more.
Lieutenant, you better start your wing over. He's ready to fire.
The contrail from the jet reached swiftly, almost scornfully for the lumbering bomber. Something in its purposeful track told us all that within seconds the drone would be a screaming, flaming pyre for the two children. And there was nothing that any of us could do to save them. I thought of Mark, cool and deadly at the work he did so well, only seconds from shattering his whole life. I felt Don tense at his control box, ready for a last, hopeless swerve of the clumsy ship. And then it came to me. The only way, the only chance. It might cost my son his life, but I knew I must try it, for I knew Mark. If I could find the courage. Don, don't.
What do you mean? Let go.
No. Don't try to evade him. Make it a sitting duck.
What do you mean?
He's nuts, Lieutenant. He'll plaster it.
No, he won't let you make him look good. Give him an easy target, Don. He'll let it go.
Suppose he doesn't.
I know him. Do it.
All right.
Oh, no. Straight and level with that guy? He'll splatter it all over the sky.
Are you moving, boy? Are you moving? Firing.
Oh, no.
What are you doing? Trying to make me look good? I'm holding fire. It's too easy. Can't you maneuver?
Left turn. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here we go.
Roger, your turn. Sliding in for a look.
See him? He's right on the wing.
Hey, somebody in the cockpit. John? Boy, you think every land that goes there is right. Do it now.
Can you do it, Don? Can you?
I've done it before, but never like this. Okay, Sergeant, watch my gauges. Easing off our power.
Manifold pressure 18 inches, sir.
Dropping her gear.
Gear down, sir.
I can do without that. Flaps down, Sergeant.
Flaps down, sir.
It was minutes, but it seemed hours before the big plane lumbered into the pattern, wheels reaching awkwardly for the runway. I closed my eyes and prayed. And then... stopped. Two very shaky children were helped out. All Petey said was, "See, he did too fly the airplane. And to this day he thinks his brother can fly." Mark's knees buckled when he climbed from his jet. He knelt on the flight line and held Hap and Kathy closely, very closely for a long moment. And when he looked into my eyes, I saw gratitude and faith. He still tests guns and rockets. But sometimes in the evening after a flight, I catch a distant look in his eye and know that he's closing on that ancient flying fortress over New Mexico. And then I go to him and touch his lips and talk of other things.
Suspense. In which Miss Bruce Hussey starred in William N. Robeson's production of Firing Run, written by Michael Frost. Supporting Miss Hussey in Firing Run were Dawn Bender, Eddie Firestone, Dick Beals, Sam Pierce, and Ken Christie. Listen. Listen again next week, when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suspense has been brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
In a niche all his own, apart from other great tellers of tales of terror, stands the moody, dark, and genius, Edgar Allan Poe. Obscure and ambiguous, the rolling periods of his prose are not for the casual reader, no more than for the casual listener. But for sheer suspense compounded of horror piled upon horror, literature offers nothing more awful than the Pitt and the Pendulum. The terror of the Black Pit would have sufficed a lesser imagination, but to this, the macabre intellect of Poe added the inescapable doom of the razor-sharp pendulum, and then piled on the rat and the moving walls of red-hot iron until the edge of the unbearable is reached. Can you take it? Can you listen through the next half hour? Try. Try to listen to Mr. Vincent Price, starring in The Pit and the Pendulum, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Supposing a little man with 3 arms and 5 eyes should skim past your ear in a flying saucer and ask you, "What is the biggest business on earth?" Would you answer that the biggest business in the world employs 350,000 people, handles 25 billion items every year, transacts $14 billion worth of business in all of its 43,000 branch offices each year, but never makes a profit? That big business is the United States Post Office business, headed up by the Postmaster General. Of course, the work of the Post Office isn't only the pickup and delivery of mail. Some of the workers are bookkeepers, some are engineers. Some plan building layouts and devise gadgets to help you have better mail service. Others keep mailbox keys and locks and the 5 million mail bags in good condition. And did you know that mail bags have 13 stripes on them to represent the 13 original states? And then there are the postal inspectors, the post office detective force. They see that money isn't stolen from the mail, and they track down racketeers who try to sell worthless merchandise by mail. And then there is the postal savings system. That's the government-operated savings bank with branches in the various post offices. It's managed by the Postmaster General, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of the Treasury. All adds up to a mighty big business, doesn't it?
And now, Mr. Vincent Price stars in Edgar Allan Poe's immortal story of punishment by terror, The Pit and the Pendulum. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I was sick unto death with that long agony. And when at length they unbound me and I was permitted to sit, I felt that my senses were leaving me. The sound of the inquisitorial voices seemed merged in one dreamy, indeterminate hum, from which emerged the syllables of my name.
Captain Jean d'Albret.
Good fathers, gentlemen.
We hear you, my son.
Even now I have no knowledge of where I am or to whom I may be speaking.
You're speaking to me, my son. I am Fra Pedro d'Espia, prior of the Dominicans of Segovia, and Grand Inquisitor for all Spain.
This, then, is the court of the Inquisition?
It is.
But I am a French officer.
That is true. A soldier and creature of the arch-fiend, the Antichrist, Napoleon Bonaparte, who even now is at the gates of Madrid, while his general La Salle menaces our city of Toledo itself.
Nonetheless, I am a prisoner of war. By what right do you try me in this court?
Let the clerk read the charges against the prisoner. Item, that on the 4th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 1808, the said Captain Jean d'Albret did wed and espouse that most noble lady, the Doña Beatriz Valdez, niece and ward of the illustrious... One moment.
Excellency?
This marriage was a deplorable thing, if you like, but lawful marriage, however regrettable in a case like this, is no sin nor crime.
There are other matters in the indictment.
Then continue, but give us nothing that is not material.
Item, that on the 12th of October, 1808, the said Jean d'Albret, being in command of a battery of light artillery, did direct the fire of his guns against the holy church of Santa Marta the Innocent, and thereby, of his wicked malice, destroyed that church utterly.
Captain d'Albret, is this charge true?
Yes.
You admit it?
Good father, the church blew up, did it not?
Would you boast of your sin, young man?
It blew up because it was stored with kegs of gunpowder for your army. I had every right to fire on it.
And that is all the defense you have to make?
I tell you, I had every right to fire on it by military law.
Is military law above God's law?
I don't know. I did my duty.
Long live the Emperor! Captain d'Albret, mark what I say. No man, however great his heresy, is condemned to be burnt in the fire if he first recant and acknowledge the error of his ways. Do you so?
I cannot. I was under orders. I obeyed them.
Then, Jean d'Albret, there can be no mercy, no pity, since there is no atonement. The sentence of this court, therefore, is...
I have swooned in terror, yet I will not say that all of consciousness was lost. In the deepest slumber, no. In delirium, no. In a swoon, no. In death, no. Even in the grave, all is not lost. Else there is no immortality for man.
In a moment, we continue with the second act of Suspense.
Would you like to tackle a big job, something that would tax your muscles, your money, your brains, your imagination, and your faith? Then try a cement plant in an underdeveloped country. You want to build one to help the country, but it would be worthless without quarrying equipment, and this would be worthless without a machine shop.
And what does the machine shop require? Power. But for power, you need transmission lines. And for all of these, you need both experts and laborers. You might be able to bring in some experts for a time, but what happens when they leave? Does the country have the technical schools to turn out more experts? In fact, what do you do if your laborers are illiterate and can't read even a bulletin board? Also, although there may be the will to build all these things, is there the strength derived from the proper diet? With all these obstacles, where does it leave your cement plant? There is a way to build it, but not with just money. It is a matter of building the foundation of an entire economy from the schools up. Throughout the world, that is what UNICEF, UNESCO, the World Bank, and many other organizations are trying to do with increasing success. They are all agencies of the United Nations, which is man's best hope for health, economic development, peace, and justice.
And now, Mr. Vincent Price in The Pitt and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
No, even in the grave, all is not lost. There were shadows of memory which told me indistinctly of tall figures that lifted me and bore me in silence down, still down, until a hideous dizziness oppressed me as I descent into the earth. There was a vague horror at my heart because of that heart's unnatural stillness. Then, as consciousness swam back to my wits again, darkness, damp stone floor and darkness. Oh, Pitt. Oh, my wife.
Did you call me, Jean?
Pitt. You here in the dungeons of the Inquisition?
No, my poor Jean. I am only here in your imagination.
Am I mad, then?
No, but your brain is fevered. You only think you hear me.
I hear you clearly. You won't leave me.
As long as I am in your heart, I shall be here. Have they chained you to the wall?
No, they've taken away my uniform. They've given me sandals and a robe of rough cloth. But I'm unchained. Beatrice, suppose they have buried me alive.
Have courage, Jean. You must have courage.
And tell me where you are now, Beatrice, in the flesh, I mean.
In the old house by the olive grove, scorned of my people.
Yes, I know.
Each morning I climb to the hilltop and watch for them.
Yes.
Sometimes I think I hear gun wheels rumble in the hills and long moving columns with the red dust rising above them.
Go on.
First come the heavy cavalry in plume-crested helmets, on their flanks wheeling like hawks, light hussars in blue and scarlet, and behind them in a glitter of bayonets, as vast as light points on the sea, rank upon rank, the long gray coats and tall bearskin caps.
And the old guard, and the Grand Army.
It's only a vision, my dear one. They do not come.
Will they ever come, Beatrice?
I cannot tell.
Then I must face what has been prepared for me.
Can you stand up, Jean?
I think so.
Then walk. Walk as far as you can. Measure the limits of the cell. If this is not a tomb.
I'll try, Beatrice. I'll try. This robe impedes me, and the floor is treacherous with slime, but I'll try.
Look out! Jean!
Oh. I'm all right. I fell on my face. The robe tripped me.
What, Jean?
But my hand is in front of me, lower than my face, but I feel nothing.
Nothing, Jean.
It's a pit. A deep circular pit, and I fell on the very edge of it.
They would have had you walk into it.
Yes.
But you didn't. You're saved, Jean.
Saved, Beatrice. Saved? My torture has been merely postponed. At last, a deep sleep fell upon me, a sleep like that of death. How long it lasted, I know not. But when I opened my eyes once again, I could see. Yes, see. My prison was large and lofty, its walls formed of massive iron plates. A wild, sulphurous luster, I could not trace its origin, lit up the dungeon and the circular pit. I could see, but I could not move. I lay on my back on a low framework of wood, securely bound by a long fastening resembling a surgical bandage. The bandage passed round and round my body, leaving at liberty only my head and my left arm. With much exertion, I could supply myself with food from an earthen dish on the floor beside me. It was meat, highly seasoned, and there was no water. Beatrice. Beatrice, where are you?
I am here, Jean.
Your voice sounds stronger, and I can see you.
You are weaker, my dear, and more fevered.
Look, Beatrice.
Where?
At the ceiling of this room. 30, 40 feet up. What do you see?
I see, painted on the ceiling, a figure of Father Time.
Yes, but this Father Time carries no scythe. It carries instead what looks like a gigantic pendulum from an ancient clock. And the pendulum is moving.
The painting cannot move.
But I swear the pendulum did. It swung a little back and forth, just like a real pendulum. Beatrice, take care.
Take care of what?
Take care of the rats. The rats from the pit. They're swarming out in dozens. You can see their eyes quiver. What do they want? What do they want?
They have caught the scent of the meat in the dish beside you.
They're not getting. Go! Go away, you vermin!
Au revoir, Jean. Au revoir.
Bitch! Where are you going? I can hardly hear you.
You are sending me away,
I'm sending you away.
My poor loved one. You can't bear to see the rats running about my feet, can you? Even when you know I'm not here.
Beatrice.
It is true, Jean. You are sending me away.
Yes, it's true. In a cell swarming with vermin, there are others I would rather see here. I would rather see.
You call me Captain Dalbray. Then in spirit, I am here.
Go. I command you, Fra Antonio. Go!
Not until I have first told you what is in store for you.
Which is?
Listen. Do you hear anything?
Yes, I hear something.
Turn your eyes upward. Look at the ceiling.
The pendulum.
Aye, the pendulum.
It is descended.
Only a foot or so as yet. As you notice, it is not really a pendulum.
No?
No. Its underside is a crescent formed of razor-sharp steel.
You mean?
A ponderous weight, Captain Dalbray. Its movement is slow now, but soon it will take on momentum. It will swing wider and wider, and with each broad movement, it will creep a trifle lower.
The steel is directly over me.
Yes, above the region of your heart.
How long before?
You need have no immediate fear. It will not be too soon.
But how soon?
Who can
tell? Minutes, hours, days. Who can say how long it was? It might have been many days before that hideous blade swept so closely as to fan me with its acrid breath. Down. Still unceasingly, still inevitably down. The sharp steel flashed past within 3 inches of my chest. And then, only then, Beatrice.
I hear you calling, John. I am here.
Oh, Beatrice.
Is there no hope, my dear?
How can there be? 10, 12 more vibrations, and it will fray the threads of my robe, only lightly as a razor in a delicate hand. There will be many sweeps down before it bites deep. I can't escape it, and yet... If only I could use my wit.
You kept me away from you, Jean. You locked me out of your thoughts. If I am here only in your thoughts, why should I fear the rats?
The rats? Do they still swarm here?
Across the door and over the meat platter. They have taken nearly all your food.
Yes, they are ravenous. They have sharp teeth. The meat is oily and spiced. If I take what remains of it... Scatter, you vermin! Rub that meat on the bandages that hold me here. It may be too late. If I move my body of a fraction of an inch up,
Try it, I tell you, try.
Can I stand those rats crawling across me? Can the flesh bear it?
One of them is seated on the wooden framework. Another follows. They are gnawing at the bandage.
7, 8 more sweeps of the pendulum.
Does the bandage give way? Lie still, John, lie still.
10, a dozen rats now. Is death, I wonder, worse than this disgust?
A dozen sharp knives could do no better. The bandage is loose into a ribbon. If you move sideways, carefully, and drop to the floor.
I can't move. My arms and legs are numb. There is no power
Feel afraid your robe a minute more will be too late. Try.
Then with all the strength that is in me and the hatred I bear my enemies.
You're free.
Second time I'm free.
Jean, the pendulum stopped. They are drawing it back up through the roof.
Each move I make is watched. You never doubted that?
No. Yet with all they could do to you, they have failed twice.
They will not fail a third time, my dear.
What you hear?
Groaning. A grinding as of metal.
It is only the cogwheels of the pendulum.
I think not, Beatrice.
Why not?
It seems to come from behind these iron-plated walls. It seems to shake the dungeon as a mill wheel might shake at it.
Stand up, my Jean. Get up off your...
I can't endure any more. Don't you sense even now the odor of the heated iron?
Heated iron?
Yes, the walls are beginning to glow red. Oh, Bill, I have been much humbled, but I won't have you see me here. I order you to go.
Jean, in the name of heaven.
Yes, in the name of heaven, go.
In just a moment, we continue with the third act of Suspense.
Someone once said, too many cooks spoil the broth. And that axiom can be applied to every factor which motivates our lives, such as our homes, our jobs, and even the Constitution which governs us. When the Constitution was drawn up, it was agreed that the power of government was not to be vested in just one person or one group of individuals, but was to be proportioned, so that each section of our government would have its specific duties without infringing on the duties of the others. Accordingly, the Constitution provides for 3 different branches: the legislative or Congress, which makes and controls our laws; the judicial or Supreme Court, which interprets the laws; and the executive, which gives to the president a position similar to the captain of a ship, that of guiding the country through safe channels. Thus, we are ensured of a smoothly running democratic way of life. That's how your American Constitution works.
And now, Act 3 of The Pitt and the Pendulum, starring Mr. Vincent Price. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suffocating heat pervaded the prison. I could draw no breath of air into my lungs. Against the lume of that fiery destruction, the thought of the pit and its coolness came like balm.
Does the pit please you, Captain Dalbury?
You again?
Do you find its contents pleasing?
Not the pit.
And how shall you avoid it? Look!
This dungeon has changed its shape.
That is true. The walls are closing in. It was formerly a square, and now it is
flattening slowly towards the center to force me into the pit.
Of course.
It will force you along with me.
Again, apparently, you must be told, Captain Dalbury, that you are speaking only to your own sick fancy. I am not here at all. Farewell.
Now flatter and flatter grew the red-hot walls. I shrank back, but the closing walls pressed me relentlessly onward toward the loathsome pit. At length, for my seared and writhing body, there was no longer an inch of foothold. I screamed once. I tottered on the edge of the pit. I averted my eyes. Then there was a discordant hum of human voices, and then a loud blast of many trumpets. The fiery walls rushed back. An outstretched arm caught my own as I fell fainting into the abyss. It was that of General LaSalle. The French army had entered Toledo. The Spanish Inquisition was in the hands of its enemies.
Mr. Vincent Price starred in William N. Robeson's production of The Pitt and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe, adapted for suspense by John Dixon Carr. Supporting Mr. Price in The Pitt and the Pendulum were Ellen Morgan, Jay Novello, Ben Wright, and John Hoyt. Listen again next week when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suspense has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
It is now 50 years since the first motion picture was made amidst the orange groves of a sleepy little California village called Hollywood. And a latter-day gold rush began. Hollywood quickly became a sprawling, brawling boom town. True to the tradition of the Western frontier, a tradition it helped to create and has fondly fostered, Hollywood lived violently. And not a few of its citizens died violently, with and sometimes without their boots on. The stakes were high. Worldwide fame and undreamt of fortune. And the passions that poured onto the silver screen sometimes spilled over into private lives with lethal results. Of such passions and such results you are about to hear. And who better to tell this story than a man who was there? A man who has starred in more motion pictures than any other actor, living or dead. Francis X. Bushman. Listen then as Mr. Bushman tells about the city that was, in exactly 1 minute.
Memo on medals. Interesting information about our military awards and decorations. Campaign medals were authorized by Congress in 1905 for all officers and men engaged in specified wars and military action, including such widely divergent battles as the Civil War in the United States and the Boxer Rebellion in China. The Navy and Marine Corps have a special Manila Bay Medal for members of the United States Asiatic Squadron under command of Commodore George Dewey in May of 1898. The Haitian Campaign of 1915 is commemorated with a medal, as is the Santo Domingo Expedition, which suppressed a revolt in that country and preserved order during elections in 1916. The Army has its Mexican Service Medal for those involved in any of several expeditions or engagements from April 12, 1911 through June 16, 1919. There is also the Army of Cuban Pacification Medal for United States troops who, from October of 1906 to April of 1909, helped establish a stable government in that island nation. The Victory Medal was initially awarded to all United States service personnel in World War I expeditionary forces, including, for the first time, women serving in the military units. There is a story behind every American medal, a proud story of devotion to country and unselfish service to keep it strong and free.
And now, Francis X. Bushman starring in The City That Was, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Remember? Yes, I remember the Hollywood of 35 years ago. There was a town for you. It flamed with color, it bubbled with intrigue, and it frequently simmered with sin. Gods and goddesses strolled the boulevard in those days and rode to the studio their $20,000 custom-built Rolls Royce. It was the era of Valentino and Mabel Normand and Wallace Reed. of Barbara Lamar and William Desmond Taylor and William S. Hart, and the great Vamps, Nita Naldi, Paula Negri, and Theda Barra. It was the era, too, of Anthony Kendall, matinee idol, turned movie king, and his leading lady, Rena Chalfant, who used to be called the golden flame of the silver screen. You must remember them, and how they were tied up with that Korsakoff killing. Well, all the facts of that cause célèbre were not told at the time, but they can be told now. And this is what really happened that rainy night in November 35 years ago. Tony and Rena had finished the long day's shooting. It was nearly 7 o'clock when Tony tooled his big white Cunningham Roadster into the driveway of his Whitley Heights estate. He stopped the car under the arch of the entrance gate and was reaching for the electric control button when a masked figure with a gun stepped out from the darkness.
All right, hold it right there. What is this? Is the end of the line for you, big shot?
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Here's where your boyfriend gets what's coming to him.
Tony, it's Bart Malloy.
Oh, it wasn't very smart to recognize me, Rena. Now you go with him.
All right, Bart. Cut the melodrama. You're drunk. Go on home and sleep it off. I'll see you at the studio tomorrow.
There isn't going to be any tomorrow for you two. I'm going to blast you.
Bart, behind you.
Oh, Tony, be careful.
Let go of that gun, Bart. Let go or let go.
There. That's better. Now, I'll just unload it so that nobody can get hurt. Here. You can have it back now. I'll go home and get some shut-eye. I'll see you in the morning.
So you can fire me in front of the whole crew, huh?
How did you know that we...
Oh, not we. You. I heard all about it an hour ago. Alec Benson didn't want to let me out. You're the one who cut my throat. Oh, why don't you call the cops and do a complete job on me?
I have no intention of calling the cops.
Why not? That'd make your day perfect.
Bart, look, now suppose we forget all about this, all three of us. Right, Rena?
Of course.
Gee, that's big of you. Both of you. Maybe someday I can pay you back.
Now, go on home, Bart. You need sleep.
Sure. That's all I need. Just a little sleep. Thanks, Tony. Thanks for everything.
Tony.
Yes, darling?
Would you mind driving me straight on home?
Well, what about dinner?
I don't feel much like eating now. I just want to go home.
All right, honey.
Tony, why did you ever put Bart on the picture in the first place?
Well, he was on the skids. There wasn't a casting director in town that would hire him.
Oh, you and your big heart. Don't you know the surest way to make a man hate you is to do him a kindness?
Perhaps, but he promised me he'd go on the wagon.
So the first day he showed up pink-eyed as a rabbit and chewing cloves to camouflage the smell of whiskey.
He's always chewed cloves as long as I've known him.
Well, sure he has. It's the trademark of an alcoholic. Tony, he scares me.
Oh, now, don't be silly, honey. Bart may be a lush, but he's not a murderer.
In a moment, we continue with the second act of Suspense.
Another visit with Joe and Daphne Forsythe.
Ooh, ow, ouch, ooh.
What's wrong, Joe?
Daphne, have you been using my razor again?
Just a little. I was peeling peaches.
Oh, fine. Why didn't you change the blade? It feels like you've been sharpening pencils with this thing.
Now, just a minute, buddy. It was you who said we could use more economy around here. And I've been saving wherever I can. And by shaving the skin off the peaches...
But look at my face. Think how the Red Cross could have used all this blood.
It's your own fault. You and your economy.
Well, being penny conscious isn't such a bad idea. Not if you use common sense. Take savings bonds, for instance.
Here it comes.
Go right ahead and scoff. But I got 8 million Americans who agree with me. We all buy savings bonds on the payroll savings plan because we know that investing in bonds is the best way to use our money.
We could use some of that money around here.
Well, maybe, or maybe we just think we can. When we buy bonds, we guarantee we'll have the money in the future, when we'll certainly need it more.
Stop waving that razor. You're splattering me with soap.
Oh, I don't mean to get excited, but who wouldn't? Where else can a man make an investment that's guaranteed to pay off $4 for every 3? And guaranteed by the credit of the whole U.S. of A. So there.
Bravo! Bravo!
All right. Now let me change the blade and get back to shaving.
I think I'll stay and watch.
Why?
Because you're so cute when you cut yourself.
Oh, fine.
And now, Act 2 of The City That Was, starring Francis X. Bushman. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Of course, Bart Malloy didn't take Tony's advice and go home. The evening was still young, and in his misery he needed company. So he headed for Henry's on Hollywood Boulevard. Everybody went to Henry's in those days. It was packed every night with actors, directors, writers, producers, come to see and be seen, and to partake of Henry's wonderful turkey sandwiches, his fabulous German pancakes, and his fragrant coffee. Malloy is downing cup after cup of it now, each one generously laced with whiskey from his hip flask. Also, he's airing his grievances to Fritz, the friendly waiter, who knows him well.
So I take a drink. One measly drink, and he tosses me off a picture. He's a louse. Oh. That's what he is. He's a star-spangled louse.
Now, Mr. Malloy doesn't know. Mr. Kendall is a fine gentleman, a real fine gentleman.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something, Fritz. I'm going to fix your fine gentleman's wagon for him if it's the last thing I ever do.
Oh, you shouldn't say such things, Mr. Malloy, especially at such a time as this. Now, just as soon as he's finished his picture, he and Miss Chalfont will be married.
Yeah, I know. Say, maybe I ought to figure out a nice present for him, huh?
Oh, that sounds better, Mr. Malloy. You know something? Always, I think that Miss Chalfont would marry that Russian director. What was his name?
Korsakov.
Yeah.
Sergei Korsakov. Yeah. They sure are crazy about each other until Tony come along. Fritz. You may not know it, but you have just given me a terrific idea.
Bart Malloy lost no time in putting his terrific idea into action. First, he telephoned the director, Sergei Korsakov, made a date to drop by his apartment later that evening. Then he called Rena Chalfont and employed his not inconsiderable talent as a mimic.
Hello?
This is Hollywood 2749.
Yes, it is.
May I speak, please, with Miss Chalfont? I am Dr. von Kesselring. Dr. Friedrich von Kesselring.
This is Miss Chalfont, Doctor.
Oh, I am Mr. Korsakov's physician, Miss Chalfont. I regret to say some unhappy news for you.
Is something the matter with Sergei?
He has suffered a coronary occlusion.
Oh, no. Is there anything I can do, Doctor? Anything at all?
Yes, Miss Chalfont, there is. Mr. Korsakov wished to see you before he goes to the hospital. I think it would make him very happy.
Of course. I'll come right over.
Malloy counted on the rainy streets and the fact that Rena had to come all the way in from Beverly Hills to give him the time he needed with Korsakov. 5 minutes later, he pulled up in front of the Russian director's house high in the Hollywood Hills. Well, not exactly in front of the house, for it perched 60 feet above the street and was reached by a private elevator which opened on the sidewalk. Very futuristic, a Hollywood showplace of the time, this hideaway of the mad Russian. Malloy pushed the bell, the elevator door clicked open, and a moment later, he stepped out of the cage into Sergei Korsakov's living room.
Hello, Sergei.
How are you, my friend? It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Oh, it's just a lousy night.
For me, it's perfect. I sit before fire and try to solve chess problems. You will have tea? Over there, samovar.
Tea?
Also brandy, whiskey, vodka. Choose for yourself.
Well, maybe just a little one, just cut the fog.
Good. Now, sit down and tell me why you called me.
Well, I need some advice.
I'll be glad to give you any kind of advice.
It's like this, see. I'm going to come out of this picture with a great deal of dough. And you told me you've been buying real estate, remember?
I have bought quite a bit of property in Santa Monica.
Santa Monica? Oh, no, that's too far out. Like the San Fernando Valley. Now, you can't tell me people are ever going all the way out there. Hey, I thought you said you were going to be alone tonight.
I expect no one.
Maybe your luck's changing, huh, boy? Don't get up. I'll send the elevator back down, and then I'll slip out the servant's entrance.
But I assure you...
Yes, I know. It's probably a maiden aunt just in from Vladivostok. Just the same, I'll go out the back way so as not to embarrass a lady.
You have dirty mind, my friend. I would suggest that you... Bart, what does it mean? The gun.
I guess you might say it means goodbye, Sergei.
Roy moved fast now. He wiped his fingerprints from the smoking gun and from the whiskey glass. Then he dropped the gun to the floor and headed for the service entrance. He was gone when the elevator stopped, and Rita walked into the living room to discover Sergei's bullet-riddled body sprawled on the floor. When the police arrived, summoned by a neighbor who heard the shooting, they found her there, gun in hand, kneeling over the body, sobbing over and over.
Oh, Dad, Sergei. Oh,
In just a moment, we continue with the third act of Suspense.
We have, together, ample capacity and freedom to defend freedom. This is NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. While the Soviets seek to weaken and disrupt the free world through worldwide military, political, and economic activities, the free world has organized its resources, moral, military, political, and economic, and is ready to deploy them wherever the situation demands. This is the basic reasoning behind the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The United States of America is a part of NATO. You should be aware of and alert to the objectives and programs of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
And now, Act 3 of The City That Was, starring Francis X. Bushman. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
They allowed Rena Chalfant one phone call. Naturally, she called Tony Kendall. But there wasn't much here his attorney could do for her, since there's no bail on a murder charge. So Tony went to the scene of the crime, and there he found that an old friend of his was in charge of the investigation. Sergeant K of Homicide.
I'm sorry, Tony, but it just don't look good for your girlfriend.
But Rena's no killer.
Well, that's not for me to say. I can only go by the evidence I find, and it all points to her.
But where's the motive? Rena had no motive.
She might have.
What do you mean?
And this is just a theory, of course.
Well, let's have it.
You may not like it, Tony.
I told you, go ahead.
Well, she and Korsikov were pretty good friends before you came along, right?
Yes.
So maybe he's still in love with her. Maybe he doesn't want her to marry you. Maybe he threatens to do something to stop the wedding.
And maybe she shoots him?
Right.
Wrong. Rena is not a killer, Marty.
Maybe. But it looks like she did it.
You've been all over the place, I suppose.
Stem to stern, everything strictly copacetic, except for a whiskey glass with no fingerprints on it.
What?
This one right here. Somebody had a shot of bourbon out of it, then wiped off the prints.
Sergei didn't drink.
No? Then maybe your girlfriend must...
Here we go with that maybe routine again. No. For your information, Marty, Rena isn't a drinker either. That samovar over there is more in her line.
So that's what you call that thing. What's it for?
Making tea, Russian style.
Hey, what's all this stuff in these little saucers?
Lemon peel, cinnamon, rose petals, cloves. They put it in the tea.
All at once?
No, one at a time.
Then Korsikov must have been a clove boy. We found a lot of them on the floor.
Cloves, eh? And a whiskey glass.
You got a theory?
Maybe I have.
What is it?
I'll let you know when I've proved it.
Tony Kendall was in makeup and on the set at 8 o'clock the next morning. The cameras were in place and the lights were all set up for the climax scene of Passion Lost, the big fight scene. Alec Benson, the director, greeted Tony with the long-faced usual reserve for funeral.
Tony, I just heard about Rena. What a terrible...
I'll save your sympathy. She's innocent.
Of course, but what's it going to do to our shooting schedule?
Oh, you're just chock full of compassion, aren't you?
Well, I mean...
Well, how's the great man this morning?
Good morning, Bart.
Who's going to lower the boom? You or Alec?
Well, Bart, you see, I told you last night we'd forget all about it, Bart.
Yeah, but I thought you meant
You're still on the picture, Bart.
Tony, I've already hired...
You heard me, Alec.
Oh, Tony, I don't know what to say.
Well, then save it, and let's get on with this fight scene.
Okay. Now, this has got to top any fight scene that's ever been photographed. Sam, I can't hear myself think.
All right, you guys. Come on. Hold hammers. Hold talk. Come on.
Yeah. Now, we've got to make the brawl and the spoilers look like a chorus boys' picnic. I want...
Look where you go, you knucklehead. Don't trip over those cables.
Will you please knock it off, Sam? You make more noise than the hammers.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Benson.
Now, let's get the suspense of the fight in Intolerable David, the brutality of Noah Beery and the Seawolf, the cruelty...
Hey, look, Alec, why don't you let Bart and me sort of work it out by ourselves? Then we'll tell you how we see it, and then if it's okay with you, we'll try a take, huh?
Well, all right. Just call me when you're ready.
All right. Come on, Bart, let's block out the action. Let's see, we begin here on the balcony when I find you coming out of Helena's room. You go for your gun, but before you can get it from...
Tony, I want to thank you for keeping me on the picture.
Well, that's all right, Bart. Now, as I was saying, when you...
And I want you to know how sorry I am about Rena.
Are you really? Are you really sorry?
Oh, I sure am. Rena's one of
them. Well, then you'll be
nice...
happy to know that you didn't kill Korsakov.
No? Well, then, who did?
You, Malloy.
What?
You killed him.
Oh, you must be out of your mind. What would I want to do a thing like that for?
You killed him, and then you framed Rena. You did it for revenge to get back at me.
Why, you're talking like a maniac.
Am I? What about the cloves that dropped out of your pocket onto the floor?
Of course you got had cloves, too. They were right there by that samovar.
Because you were there, Malloy, and you killed him.
Well, you try and prove it.
I won't have to prove it. You're going to admit it.
Oh, yeah, man.
That's right. I'm going to beat the truth out of you right
now. You keep away from me, Kendall. You keep away. Oh, I'm going to fix that pretty face of yours.
Hey, look. Over there like that.
Hey, wait a minute, Tony. Hold it, boys, until we can...
It ain't holding, Mr. Benson. Wow, what a wallop. Oh, boy, that sure looked real, didn't it?
What are we standing there for? Let's get it on film. Lights, Larry, Paul, start cranking those cameras.
All right, you guys, you heard Mr. Benson. Come on, lights, camera.
That's fine, Bob. Slam his head against the pillar. Good. Now bring it up, Tony. Bring it up from your heels. That's the idea, real haymaker.
Oh, you, Malloy. You killed him.
Oh, you heels your weight. All right.
Tell me the truth, Malloy. You give it to me straight or I'll kill you here
now. Don't believe you on that strangle, Tony. The senses and Iowa may squawk about it.
Come on, Malloy. This is your last
Yes, I did it. I did. Cut.
All right, take the light.
Now, look, Tony, I realize I'm only the director around here, but even so, would you mind letting me in on...
You tell him, Malloy. You tell him or I'll...
I killed Korsakov.
Call Monte Kay, will you? Tell him we've got his killer for him, and you better have a couple of the boys keep an eye on Malloy until he gets...
What are you going to do?
Me? I'm going over and get my girl out of the jailhouse.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a story out of the Hollywood of the 20s. The city that was. As you know, Rena and Tony Kendall are still one of the film capital's happiest couples. As a matter of fact, I had tea with them last week. Rena served from a great brass samovar. I had my choice of sugar and cream and rum, of course. And then there were small china bowls filled with slivers of lemon peel and dried rose petals and sticks of cinnamon. But do you know something strange? There weren't any cloves.
Suspense. starred in William N. Robeson's production of The City That Was by Richard Wheel. Supporting Mr. Bushman in The City That Was were Norma Eberhardt, Chester Stratton, Ben Wright, Jack Crucian, Joe DeSantis, and Norm Alden. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with The Star of Thessaly, starring Ray Noble. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suspense has been brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.